Welcome back to the Smite Pro League. My name is Finch, and we just finished a crazy set there where Rival came out on top over the Knights. And don't worry, we still have plenty more SPL action coming your way. But before that, I want to let y'all know, go pick up that new Battle Pass. Sweet Victory Power-Up Hera is available for you now, so go ahead and grab that in-game on your other monitor, of course. Don't close out the SPL. To help me break down this next set that we're going into, I am joined by Taco right here next to me. We're going into Obey, the new look for Trifecta up against SK.
Well, new look certainly with their new support, Mineral,
right, yeah.
who's going to be making his final, or I shouldn't say final, but he's going to be making his opening debut into the SPL. It's been a long time coming, though, if you ask me, Finch.
No, you're right. Mineral is no stranger, not brand new, who's someone who's been around this scene for a long time here at this point. It is a bit of a tough call for him, though, to be going against SK this early on, a very strong squad. Let's take a look at those standings so I can show you exactly what I mean. Rival, of course, up near the top after grabbing 2 wins in their first active phase. SK at 4 and 6. These are the carryovers from Phase 1 and some ones that have already happened here in Phase 2.
And not only that, but Obey are going to be dealing with an SK that just came off a set loss from yesterday. So you already know that SK have been ramping up to try and secure themselves a few more points to up the standings just a little bit more so. I mean, they are hovering on the line right there with Renegades for that 6th place slot, and we've never had a top 6 this close before, Finch.
I don't think that we have. You're absolutely right that every one of those teams up there can take games off each other. I mean, I almost want to make it a top 7 and slide SK in there if they can show us a little bit more consistency. Plus, there's some teams who we haven't even gotten to see how some of their off-season changes will affect them. I mean, right now we're getting into, I feel like, the most competitive point we've seen here in the SPL, and a big part of that is this SK team. They played so much in Season 5 through Sam, through Paul, but I think Neil has really stepped up, so has Belair, and it feels like we're getting back to old Zapman. I mean, the more I see this team, the more excited I get about him.
It's impossible not to talk about Zapman right now. He has been on fire since Season 6 opened up, Finch, and he's just trying to prove to the world that he is definitely not washed. And, I mean, Zapman, message received. He has definitely been handling the duo lane almost single-handedly, in all honesty, Finch, but I think that there's still a lot more that we have yet to see from Zap.
I think so, too. This guy is continually impressive, and he's also one that I love to get a chance to hear from and just great to talk to as well. We had an opportunity to hear a little bit from Zapman. We're going to go ahead and take a listen to that here now.
Yeah, so I would say from Season 5 to this season, I proved what I wanted to prove, that I still had it. I try to go for a lot of solo kills and things like that. I think the main thing I want to improve on is just being a little bit more consistent. Maybe not go for that solo kill and play a little bit more conservative, get some farm, or maybe make another rotation to kind of help out the team. And I believe that's probably going to be the main thing I work on. I think the mid-season changes, they kind of change more in the casual perspective than I would say the competitive perspective. I see a lot of people saying, oh, double hunter meta and all this kind of stuff. And I personally am confused when I hear that. I'm like, double hunter, no, what mage's long lane, like that's not changing. And even with the additions of Fail Not and the buffed attack speed item and the attack speed on Chin size, it doesn't allow hunters to go back to the long lane because they still lose out to the mages, especially because of hybrid items and all the flat pin mages have that allow them to outtrade the hunters. So that's not going to change until either hunters get better items, more hybrid items, or mages lose their hybrid items and maybe they're beginning CDR because there's a build, Mage's Blessing, cooldown boots, Pythags that everyone's going, that gives them 30% CDR right off the bat, very cheap, allows them to trade effectively. So I would say those mid-season changes kind of change the perspective on the casual, maybe the fan base, but in terms of competitive, it's pretty much the same hunters mid or pressure mid and mage in the long lane. So what I think about the Obey team and the roster changes they made are, it's a little bit confusing to me. I'm not really sure why they let go of Vionic, or if he left, I don't know the dynamic there. But then they brought in a guy, Mineral, who I personally haven't seen much of, or I haven't seen him maybe pop up in SML or like, you know, anything to impress me in that kind of sort. So that roster change kind of caught me by surprise. I'm not really sure if it's going to do anything for them. I hope it doesn't because we play them, but sad to say, but I think it's going to be more of the same. The way we match up against Obey is I think we win in pretty much every role, and don't think they really have caught on to the meta as well as other teams, and I think it might just be a 3-0 like it was last split.
Sounds like Zapman is still confident going into this matchup, even with that change, Aeonic out, Mineral in. And to be fair, at least based on their last performance, he's right. Is a Mineral going to be enough to try and take down this strong, stacked SK team? I'm just not sure.
Well, judging by the sounds of things, Finch, seems as though Mineral might have a soft advantage already, because it doesn't really sound a whole lot like SK is really prepared for Mineral to come in and be anything spectacular for Obey. So he's really at his own limits here to kind of show us what he's got.
I think so too, and Mineral's no stranger. Well, I mean, we talked about that at the top of this set, right? Is that Mineral's been around the SML for a long time. He is a ranked grinder. This guy is always playing Smite. And one thing that I want you to consider, that if this guy here, Kurt Schray-Weekend, if he picks you up for his team, he must see something in you. He must believe in your ability to come in. That might be out of game in your comms. It might be the way that you handle yourself in tough situations. But if you're getting that endorsement, then I think I'm right there with you too.
And at least from player experience alone, I can definitely vouch on the fact that Mineral is a vocal player. I don't know how well that's going to necessarily transition into the competitive environment from a ranked and more minor league scene type of style, but these guys are all fairly familiar with each other. They've all been playing the same rank scene for quite some time. They know who's in competitive play and who's on the cusp of it. Mineral definitely being one of those names that's kind of hovered that gray area for quite some time now. And with this debut, Finch, I just feel like Obey is going to pull out something spicy.
I think that there's a really good chance here too. And this is a roster now that I think they've got a really sort of chill attitude about them, is how I would describe them. And I don't mean in terms of how seriously they take the game. Everyone preps for it and comes in focused to win, but I don't think they take losses too hard. I don't think that they, beat up on each other. I think this is a bit of a relaxed atmosphere that he could fit in well with.
If anything, I almost want to see Obey kind of just tune in a little bit more so to the game aspect entirely. And what I mean by that sense is, I don't even think Obey necessarily have to win a match. I think they just need to keep SK at bay long enough to show to them that they are competitive material here, even with their new support pickup in Mineral, because judging by the sounds of things, I feel as though SK might be a little overconfident on this one. And granted, I assure you that they probably did their fair amount of prep leading into this, but at the same time, I mean, SK's been together for a while now, coming in from Season 5 now to Season 6 here. They've been playing together for quite some time. It might not have some of those synergy problems that Obey might experience.
That's right. There's certainly going to be some growing pains here as we are getting closer and closer to moving into those picks and bans. So close, in fact, that they're here for you now. Obey will be in that first pick spot. SK then will have that final 10th pick, the counter pick that is sometimes so coveted here. And Taco, I know that Mineral's coming in, but I don't expect that we'll see things too drastically different from what old Trifecta would have been valuing here still. Probably going to want to get something for Moswal early on, something for Weekend early on, like we used to see.
Would definitely like to see Obey maybe leave that dual lane until a little bit later on in the draft, unless they feel extremely confident in Mineral and Wowy. Keep in mind that Mineral and Wowy have definitely played on teams in the past together before,
sure.
So it's not like they're unaware of what their God pool styles and preferences are going to be leaning towards. One big thing that I also want to bring up here is that yesterday, SK, it wasn't really so much the team as a whole that was kind of struggling, but I honestly thought that Belair had a lot of solo lane woes, and I want to see Ducky step up here.
I think that there's a really good chance that he can. To be honest, I think that SK's loss is a little bit more self-inflicted than it had to be, if we're being honest here. There were a couple mistakes that weren't characteristic of that team that we don't normally see.
Yes.
If they were able to go home, watch back some of that footage, and improve on that, then they have a really good chance here, as long as they're making sure they're not looking past Obey coming into this set.
Well, Thor is going to round off the end of Obey's first banning phase here, and so far it's been predominantly early game choices that Obey is trying to keep out of the hands of SK, and for good reason. SK known as kings of the early game in the SPL. Do they necessarily win every single match after getting that early game pressure? No, but being in a position where you're playing from the back foot is never a fun one, especially with a new support.
I'm a bit surprised that Erlang Shen's made it through these bans. He's someone that is very valued over there by SK, but apparently by Obey as well. Just a top pick overall, and they'll be grabbing that one up. I imagine that's going to go to Weaken in the jungle, but it could still easily be a pick for Mineral, too.
I just started writing Mineral's name for the picks instead of the Erlang, because I'm so accustomed to seeing him run that pick in that support role. So there's some nice flexibility options early on here for Obey, but a little bit of a damper on that happiness of the Erlang pickup, Finch, seeing that Skadi locked in on top of the set. So much chaos for that backline now that Obey is going to have to worry about protecting.
Yeah, that's a decent amount of range they've been able to draft for themselves, and burst damage too that Obey are now going to have to contend with. They're not particularly mobile. Of course, Set can blink. That does give him some great mobility, but it's a bit limited. It can only do that one time. Maybe Obey can kind of lock down this SK roster as they draft an Osiris and a ton of pressure in the AMC.
A little concerned of seeing that Muzen pick, though, Finch, because even though AMC has a lot of push power potential, at the same time, trying to deal with the Skadi in a set, Skewer, not to mention Skadi's Permafrost, and the range with Kaldar in general, now that her ultimate, you can throw that Kaldar to get that range route. Could pose a lot of problems for positioning on Obey's side of things. And the Ares lockdown as well, I don't think that could have been much of a better pick considering that no CC immunity for the Erlang or AMC so far.
It'll feel pretty good into the Erlang. In particular, will this Ares and give them a decent amount of presence in the early game, though maybe not quite Erlang Shen levels. So far, I think both teams can still feel pretty good about where they are. Obey might want a little bit more CC for this composition, and SK maybe needs a little bit more to go along with their roster too. But so far, these first three picks are both sides. I think put them in a good spot.
Raijin gonna follow that one up. That's a Moswal favor for sure. Wouldn't be surprised if SK maybe even look towards Alpwash here, considering that that area denial could be very limiting against the set and the Ares specifically. So Obey, pretty open-ended here as well.
And we haven't had a chance to see Obey play yet. So really between both of these teams, another interesting question becomes how much are they going to buy in to some of this lane swapping that we've seen? We saw SK play yesterday, so I doubt we'll see much there. But then what about this Obey squad?
I'm really hoping that they don't throw Moswal into the dual lane. Moswal needs that mid lane territory to reign in, Finch. That is his comfort zone and his comfort space. And I just don't see how it could possibly serve as a positive factor for Obey if they try to throw their mid laner into the dual lane. Would probably just be a lot easier to have Wowy in a comfortable matchup, which is what it's looking like with the Muzen. Wowy's definitely confident when he plays the B.
Obey banned away two mages, I assume, to try and limit Paul, but if you leave Habois up, then you haven't truly limited Paul. Perhaps Obey intentionally trying to box him into this pick, but it's one that Paul plays so well, it's hard to imagine you feel confident going into it. Meanwhile, SK, on the other hand, banned away the Raijin, as you said, to try and take that away from Moswal, but they're also banning the Kumbhakarna, so maybe they're not sold that Erlang Shen is for Mineral.
There's so much physical dependency, though, right now for Obey. They need some kind of magic damage as another outlier source. Otherwise, SK is going to be able to itemize too easily against these physical damage dealers. Poseidon could be a really strong option. Also thinking about maybe the Vulcan. That's a little bit of a signature god there for Moswal. Has some decent zoning duties as well off of the turret control and the range mostly to deal with the Habois. But Sol's going to be the god of choice here, maybe valuing that to separate for the Ares and Skadi.
That's interesting. Sol definitely is strong right now, but I don't necessarily think Moswal when I hear Sol. I wonder if this is something that's picked more for the comp than for the player.
It could also mean that maybe Moswal's trying his hand at the Muzen.
That could be it too, yeah.
My main worry here for Obey seeing that Sol is that, yes, it's a source of magical damage, but it's magical damage over time. It's not that instantaneous burst that you'll see from the likes of the Habois. This power and the damage dealt from SK alone is going to make these team fights rather troublesome for Obey.
It looks like with that Ravana locked in that we're going to be seeing Set in the hands of Belair instead of in the jungle. That Ravana very likely going to be going over to Sam for soccer. And with the Ravana, that gives them a ton of pressure potential and die potential too onto this backline. This Muzen Cobb, if they do give that to Moswal, could be in a bit of trouble.
Which is why I'm definitely expecting it to be the Sol from Moswal. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that this is a guaranteed AMC figure for Moswal in the slightest. Just nothing's impossible right now in Smite. There's a lot
so
of viability in so many different compositions right now, but I definitely think that SK have got a comp that's catered to a lot of their players' strengths.
Yeah, they've got a ton of early presence but with this Ravana, and I think even Skadi has some potential there, but still plenty of late game there too. SK good at multiple stages. Meanwhile, Obey is strong as long as they don't end up hurting for magical damage. But either way, we're about to find out how these two drafts are going to work. Obey versus SK, let's start it up.
Starting this one off hot. Obey, new name, a little bit of a new roster. We got a Mineral here instead of the support. And we got a Tom and a Tolly here, bringing you the action, and of course Doug hovering from overhead. Obey Alliance grouped up here on the right side, wanted to dissuade any gotchas. But right off of the bat, Tolly, just the floor is yours. Talk to me about the drafts.
Honestly, I'm loving the draft from both sides. I'm leaning more towards SK Gaming simply because Zapman on the Skadi. He has a lot of history up against Wowy back in the days of Season 3s and 4s when he was in a lesser, well-known team for Wowy, kind of abusing that matchup. But Wowy always holding his own in that matchup, the team not getting the better end of it. Aries on NeilMah, he's going to be playing.
Whoa. I'm running you over real quick.
What's going on here, Tom?
So a lot of people, we were having a conversation about Mineral and talking about what kind of characters he likes to play, and I was always like defensive. You just expect to see Khepri, Kumba, and Terra. We saw the Terra locked in. I thought undoubtedly we'd see the Terra in the hands of Mineral, Erlang in the jungle, and then Ducky. No, it's Weaken on the jungle Terra. This is... Sure, Mineral, Erlang, that's weird, but the weird jungle Terra.
So, I kind of understand it in the form of, all right, Terra's going to gain more levels in the jungle than you will in the support. So you'll hit level 5 first for that Earth and Fury.
Okay.
Now the question is, are you going to make a play with it? Like, you're playing setup, but Weekend has been known to play a lot of setup jungle way back in Season 2 AFK days, the M&M days. When he was paired up with Cyclone Spin, he would play a lot of Guardians. He played even Khepri and the Kumbhakarna in the jungle from time to time. So Terra, right now, very shocking, but seeing the player playing the Terra jungle, not so shocking.
I'll give you that, yeah. The Khepri jungle came out from Weekend, you're totally right. Kumba jungle makes a little more sense. We've seen the Kumba solo.
The Odin 667 jungle.
Yeah. The Terra, we'll see how much player damage Terra winds up with after all. You know, because it is interesting. Terra, remember, back before Soul Reaver was changed, we did see her kind of bring out some damage. But then again, just because you're in the jungle doesn't mean you have to do the damage. We saw... What was the weird Guardian jungle that we saw earlier? Not today, but earlier, I think it was last week. We saw another, like, low damage Guardian. But that's been kind of... Players have been really playing around with the open ability, the openness of the game right now. You heard them talking to the desk. Nothing's set in stone. Moswal is playing that AMC, so there's a lot of malleability right now in the game.
Yeah, this Muzen Cobb is going to be important to try to put pressure and find the plays, but it's actually SK looking for the plays instead. NeilMah engaging, but Weekend on the flank.
Weekend's going to get the root onto NeilMah. Knock him is good, and Moswal gets first blood off the assist of the jungle Terra. That said, Moswal's going to take down Sam for the better part of the double kill. 2 for the mid lane AMC. Sam goes down, and so does the Ares. That said, on Obey's side, we do lose Mineral, but that's how you play support. You get your middle laner 2 kills.
You know that old saying for Arachne, you don't fight the bug? Can we say the same thing for a Muzen Cobb in mid? You just don't fight the bee?
I mean, he's a bug too, right?
So the thing was, I get SK's idea, trying to isolate Mineral. That was only level 2 at the time, but they forgot that Moswal brings quite a bit of pain on this Muzen Cobb with Mage's Blessing. Even with the nerfs of mid-season, the passive and also the Bee Swarm of a Muzen Cobb lowered the damage numbers ever so slightly. With Mage's Blessing, is still strong enough, especially this early on, to get that counter engage going. Obey with a 2-for-1.
Zapman level 5 tosses the dog. Wow, he's going to go ahead. Beads and hit the Separate. And Relic for the ultimate out of Zapman. Nice choice there. Solo lane matchup. This is where you kind of come in, Tolly. Ducky on the Osiris versus Belair on the set. I feel like this is a very old style matchup. One guy's really aggressive. One guy is also really aggressive. So, but new characters, obviously. How does this one work out?
I think for Belair, if he had a little bit of a higher health pool, he would continue to play aggressive. Obviously, Belair on the set, he's an all-in style kind of god in the side lanes. When you're looking for that timing of the Kingslayer, you're getting an extra about 20-25% movement speed to run them down, lifesteal. But Ducky can absorb a lot of that aggression playing the Osiris, having 16% physical mitigation once his passive is all the way stacked up, or he could just straight up use Lord of the Afterlife to force his passive stacks. Don't forget that Judgment Tether, reducing some of the damage from Belair. Belair gonna have to wait to time that one out before he commits the all-in.
That's one of the things that I like about the set when it comes down to working out in lane. Obviously, Skewer is going to do a ton of damage, but you have your advancement and your retreat options always out. You're always going to be able to Sandstorm back to the clone that you put in a safe spot, and you're always going to be able to skewer forward for the clone that you put in an aggressive spot. So you kind of have two different directions that you can run into, and of course, a ton of just base numbers for Belair, especially after Kingslayer. So building tanky will certainly allow him to do his thing, but stay aggressive and stay as a damage dealer. Moving over to the mid lane, here comes NeilMah, 2 players chained up, just one, and both of them, Mineral will use the beads. Shadows as support, grabbing Purification.
Something that Trixtank loves to do against other Ares, but speaking of the jungle, Terra trying to make his first appearance onto Zapman though, looking for that red buff invade.
That was
a little disruptive, but still surviving, which is crucial. It didn't really feel impactful.
It did nothing. I mean...
Zapman still gets his red, and he just walks away.
Yeah, no, I mean that's any other jungler here, and you know that's the thing is I am Mr. Open-minded. I am usually the one coming out with some baddie strategies. I love out of role characters.
He did get the beats from Zapman, sure, but he just did not do much damage to like really threaten his life at all. And as a Skadi player that doesn't have a jump or a dash, you got to find a way to like lock her down, and Terra does do that, I guess, but without the damage numbers quite yet. It'll be a while before we'll see Weekend bringing in the pain.
Osiris is going to be able to pop. Okay, so here's what I'm thinking right now. Weekend on the jungle Terra.
Yeah.
Terra, the whole thing is the ultimate. You want to hit somebody 4 times to pop the stones, right?
Yes.
So you've got Osiris who's delivering quick blows. You've got Soul who's delivering quick blows with heavy attack speed. You've got a Muzen who's delivering quick blows with heavy attack speed and dot damage. And Erlang Shen as well doing the same thing, right? All of these characters pop those stones very early. That might be why the Terra is here. Again, as far as why it's in the jungle is a different story, but the Terra in the sense of this composition, I think makes sense. I'll just continue to question the jungle for at least another 10 minutes.
Another thing was the Terra was drafted after the secondary phase when SK Gaming had already locked in Ares. So
which is always tough.
Drafting anything reliant on a dash, such as Erlang and Terra, against something that crippled, you're kind of like daring the opposition to target you out. So this could be more freedom for his backliners.
Red buff here. Obey is ready and waiting. NeilMah cut down. Big damage from Weekend. All right, buddy. Trying to show me wrong. I'm down and I'm here for it. Big play coming out from the jungle Terra as they keep SK Gaming out of the red buff. Weekend really did blow NeilMah up. Just drops it, dashes, and then finishes off with the damage from the ultimate. All right, I see you.
I don't even think the ultimate damage went off. Like, that's how fast he died after the other abilities. But a great trap A from Obey Alliance. This level 8 of Muzen with red buff consistently around Moswal's waist is the determining factor for getting that first kill, or rather that later on kill on that side of the map. It's a good idea to try to pressure out the red buff because you know Zapman wants to be aggressive in this duel lane against Wowy. He's afraid of these magical hunters once they truly come online.
Wowy's going to have a decent time against Zapman. You saw what was able to happen last time Zapman went for the gank. You throw the Calder, and then Wowy has enough time to beads and to separate before you can have any lethal damage. So a nice look there for Wowy to try and deal with Zapman. The right side, it's a blink on the Ducky. NeilMah gets the pull, and 2 players providing the damage, and Ducky will go down very easily. That opens the left side of the map open to Obey Alliance. Gold Fury a little bit too strong just yet, so the objective will be the Oracles. And the Vision given to Obey here. Tie game still, just 9 minutes in.
That was a smart play because Ducky's ultimate was still not available. Belair forced that one out earlier on in the laning phase, and as an Osiris, you're looking to always play aggressive with Gladiator Shield. That 10% cooldown reduction alone is good enough to start spamming your Sickle Strike or that Spirit Flail to go from 5 to 4.5 second cooldown versus 10 to 9 seconds, whereas Belair also looking for the same idea with the Skewer, going from 7 seconds to about 6.3. It's kind of like which god, or which player rather, is more accurate in terms of poking the other one out. Ducky having more resiliency, can kind of absorb some of those blows, and I think he kind of let that play into his own trap by using that ultimate.
The red buff invade from Obey Alliance, and successful as they were before.
And SK Gaming knew that was going to happen. They didn't want any part of it, really. This time, though, Zapman poking his head where it's not wanted in a 1v2, but still safe with this comfortable experience advantage in the long lane.
Very important beads there. If Zap doesn't pre-beads, he's likely dead. Mineral here, even with beads, might just fall over. Ducky shows up to try and help, but it will be a death for the support, out of position, and those are the growing pains that you've got to expect. Mineral, by no means, is a slouch. He absolutely belongs. I think he deserves the call-up. He's in the top class of the minor league, if you want my opinion. Ducky jumps over the wall.
Good
No!
Night.
Ducky jumps over the wall too early!
Good night, sweet Prince Ducky. You will be missed in a 1v3. NeilMah with the last hit. Now Weekend trying to find revenge.
Here's the dash and the ultimate. But it will just be a fond farewell. See you later.
Two issues I just saw from Obey Alliance, very quick succession, was number one, Mineral had beads when he died. He didn't use it because he was hoping that it would take the no escape to kill him, but by being crippled by those chains, he couldn't use the turtle form to get into safety. Sometimes you just got to take the L, use the beats, get the turtle form, and get out of there. And the second mistake was obviously Ducky using that ultimate way too early. I think that Ducky's mentality there was that NeilMah wasn't in range quite yet for the no escape, and he thought that if I use my ultimate right now, I won't be pulled in, but slightly mistimed.
Mineral trying to help here on the Totem of Ku. Dealing a ton of damage, but Belair here and trying to be finished. Mineral's going to die for the Totem of Ku. I don't like this choice, Anatoly. And again, growing pains here for Obey's new support. And this is what I was trying to mention here last time, is that Mineral, I think, is in the top class of the minor league support players. Absolutely deserves to call up. I think Obey's previous support player did show signs of something had to happen. And Mineral here, I think he just belongs in this spot. But the early stages will be a little rough. Those are the things that you get away with on the minor league battlefield. And here, Belair is like, what are you doing? You can't do that. Welcome to the big show, Mineral.
Normally, whenever I see a play develop and unfold or something happen between a killer and Duff, I can kind of explain it logically, but in that instance, I can't actually explain that whatsoever.
My logical explanation is that he gets away with that in his other games because he's just better than his opponents. It's a much different battlefield in the Smite Pro League.
Sure, but this was a level 12 set at the time and a level 8 Erlang Shen. If you are playing even at a ranked situation, you're still doing that. You're not taking a favorable gamble at all. That's like a 95% chance not in your favor that you'll even survive. He didn't even try to go back to the lane. He was literally just basic attacking that Totem of Ku. And I don't like to give players a lot of flack for certain bad plays, but that was a very just absent-minded play.
Those are the plays that have to change if Mineral's going to stay here and make an impact at the pro level. Sam4Soccer trying to battle Ducky and doing just that. Under the tower, shoutouts to the Robin, and Sam4Soccer kicks the field goal. Different sport. Ducky goes down anyway, 6-3 SK Gaming.
No, that's Frank for football too, that you can find in your ranked games at a theater near you. But a great play from Sam4Soccer in that solo lane. Something happening in the other side lanes, not too much to talk about there, but I love how the 2v1 developed under that tower. It's difficult to lock down an Osiris that is above level 9 with 2 points in his ultimate, already Gladiator Shield for the sustain, but Sam4Soccer so comfortable on this Ravana. I believe he played it twice in the E-United set yesterday, having warmed up there. Even with Belair juggling the aggro of the tower, you can tell that between the solo jungle of SK Gaming, there's a lot of synergy and chemistry between the two.
Sam going to be slowed down. Ducky from the right side tries to collapse on the jungle, but the left side is where the fight belongs. NeilMah trying to grab 2, grab none. CC immunity coming out for both Mineral and Weaken. Nice job, but Mineral loses beads, and Weaken will lose an ultimate.
That's right. 2 ultimates for 2 ultimates. Nothing to write home about for either side. I'm expecting a little bit more pressure, though, from SK Gaming now, because without real cooldown reduction for the likes of Mineral, he's kind of that sitting duck, and it's going to be tricky now without the purification beads. He's going to be a very easy target, especially now that he's level 10. He won't be level 12 for a while.
Pridwin, 3rd item, 4th item for the support.
For Mineral?
Yeah.
I'm personally not a fan of 3rd item.
You don't like the early Pridwin?
No, unless like it really works with whatever ultimate you're playing to force the shield activation just for the slow. Because you're not getting much of a health shield from the overall protection.
Right, because you're
this
early.
So I would love to see it, you know, get more protections. Like I love the fact that Gauntlet of Thebes obviously rushed by both supports now, trying to get that 60 protections on both sides, so you'll get 120 health shield from the Pridwin.
See, I'm on the other side of things. I do like the early Pridwin, and the jury is very much out. This is one of those fun tabletop conversations where I don't think there's a right answer just yet. 20 CDR.
It's good.
20 CDR, totally.
For about, what, 2,400 gold, something like that. It's not too much of an investment. And as a Guardian, you want CDR, obviously. Right. So that makes sense.
We saw PBM with the full CDR Kepri. But really what it is, because your point is salient. The fact that, you know, you just don't get much from that proc early. Mm-hmm. That just means it gets better and better as you buy more items.
The thing is, I believe Mineral specifically is going to heavily need magical defense outright as opposed to a hybrid mix of physical and magical. Paul's Habwa is coming online soon. Ares on the support even does plenty of damage that you have to respect. You might want to invest into the Pestilence. Could even be Bulwark of Hope. I wouldn't even be surprised to see Talisman of Energy.
Mineral does look like he's going to go into the Arthurian item.
Yeah.
And after that, we'll hope that he goes, because I agree with your protections as well. I think Paul and NeilMah are going to be a big deal.
Whereas on the other side, NeilMah not going to do that. Instead, he's going to look for an engage.
Just starting the party off hot. Weaken's going to pull the trigger as well, and Zapman's the first one to make a move. Moswal answers back. Both supports down. 4-on-4. No Guardians. And SK Gaming will take that and run.
Just now, Mineral's beads are off cooldown. A great calculated play out of SK Gaming, abusing this support. Now dead at level 11, still not access to that second relic slot, which will delay his team fighting potential with the 17-minute mark approaching. This is where Gold Fury is highly contested and the action's more developing on the left.
That man going to be isolated by 2 different players and rooted. Aegis is good to deal with a lot of Weaken's damage. That's the whole burst. Moswal has joined the fray, and Zapman will go down after the mid lane rotation. Ratatoskr here trying to deal with it. He shows up a little bit too late and feeds himself. Weaken gets the last hit. Paul and Belair here got the message. Paul gets weakened from a distance. Moswal's Aegis is over. Will SK dive? No. Mineral here to defend. Knock up. Pin on cooldown. The taunt's good, Toli. And Belair will fall down. Lucky number 7 for Obey.
1 by 1 like lambs to the slaughter. A 3-for-1 favoring out Obey Alliance. Great pressure onto Zapman. Ratatoskr wanting to find that revenge kill, but without Mystic Rush for that damage mitigation, he was a sitting duck as well. Obey Alliance now getting the better end of it all.
This is a huge play. We got a lead change here, at the very least a tie-up. And that is what we will see. SK Gaming kind of lurching forward, 2,000 gold in their pockets. Obey Alliance return fire and take it right on back. A little bit of an overextension by SK Gaming on that left side lane fight.
Well, honestly, at the first gank attempt onto Zapman, he wasn't really that far out of position at all. He was kind of around his purple buff area, but it was the players after from SK Gaming that really overextended trying to get those revenge kills. And you can't really blame them. When you're going to invest that much onto a hunter, then you got to find some kind of trade kills.
I agree there. It was definitely the after the fact. Zapman a little bit unfortunate. Sam definitely did not need to go down. That was a little bit problematic. But luckily enough for SK, it didn't go all too bad. Belair falls down after Paul. And, back and forth and back and forth.
There needed to be, so the way that Sam needed to, uh-oh, Weekend does have beads, but he didn't use it. He had beads. He didn't use it. He used it at the very end after already getting pulled.
Yes, Totally is right. He used it after he got pulled.
Because it was 120 seconds because of the Relic Dagger.
So, very curious, and we'll resume that conversation in a moment. Fire Giant was started by SK Gaming, and they'll be stopped in their tracks by Obey Alliance. I think the mentality from Weekend was just, I got pulled, I'm going to die, don't use it, but then changed his mind at the last moment. Rough stuff there, and Moswal also uncharacteristically walks into death. SK Gaming on the run here, totally. And they've largely taken control of this area.
This is kind of what SK Gaming did earlier, when after Zapman died, everyone tried to revenge kill. Now, trying to find a revenge kill, Moswal ends up dying. What I can think from Weekend's mentality was, I want to get pulled so I can get a huge ulti off and trust my teammates to clean up. That's the only logical conclusion I can really come up with by not using beads from a no escape.
I think he knew he was dead, opted for no beads, and then at the last moment maybe got a call that his teammate was on. Maybe. Well, I mean, and also don't get me wrong. He also could have just thought they were down. There are player mishaps.
I think if he thinks he's gonna die, then he should beads during the no escape before the pull actually happens.
But are you better off, and this is an interesting question, even with Relic Dagger, are you better off at 20 minutes dying to the areas and coming back for the team fight with your beads up, or using your beads and then getting targeted next team fight because the enemy knows your beads are down?
Probably using my beads, honestly, right there, because
you're by yourself, not with a team.
Yes, and if I'm going to get focused on within the next 60 to 90 seconds with a cooldown reduction coming, actually no cooldown reduction coming from the area, so 90 seconds,
right,
then I'll have a 30-second window to calculate of my vulnerability. So during those 30 seconds, I'm either playing so far back that I can't get targeted, or I'm playing so aggressive that I'm going to blink in and force a Terra's ultimate.
But that's exactly when NeilMah is going to come for you. We saw that play happen on the other side. So the idea is, like, I can beads here and run away all by myself, or I can die all by myself, and then when a team fight comes, we'll be ready to go. Either way, not the greatest look. SK Gaming up 3,000, and Mineral, the new support, going to be surrounded. Up top, Paul's dealing with Weekend as NeilMah tries to aggress on the enemy's back line. Weekend dashes away, but Sam for Soccer stops him down. Paul was the target the whole time, and down he goes. Wowy helps out the team. Mid laner for Jungler, and Wowy finds another one. Paul and NeilMah sitting on down.
Oh my goodness, Sam going in, cleaning up alongside Zapman and Belair, using that Sandstorm, trying to couch out Moswal, and Wowy beating out the slow Zapman and Belair. They want blood.
Yeah, Moswal's one shot away. Belair over the wall, can't find the skewer.
No, he found it, it just wasn't enough damage.
Very, very true. Moswal, I caught it at 34 HP, so he had less than that.
That was cute. I like what Belair tried to do there, but the back just in time to save Moswal's life. You can tell Belair is really comfortable with the mechanics of the skewer and using it from the clone, the way he was able to try to catch the backing there, despite a little lackluster performance yesterday against EU United's Benji when he played Camazotz and then the set after the fact. I think he's learned a lot from one day of playing.
Belair also has kind of been a streaky player. He's got his moments. I think of Vamana at LAN last year, where he looks incredible. He's able to help the team basically win the game. The Amaterasu won him many regular season games. And then, no disrespect, sometimes homie goes 0-3 and has an assist. And as rare as that he'll wind up with 14 deaths, but you have the invisible games from Belair for sure. This one, not the case. 1-1-10, top player damage for Belair at the moment. I'm excited. When previously known as Scary D, when Belair feels good, he certainly can put on a show. Primal Fury will be the next act of that show. 23:23 on the clock, and SK Gaming are going to rush to the objective. You got that one?
I see what you did there. But Obey Alliance, they either didn't know that was happening or they just don't care. Instead, they're going to focus their mindset onto Belair in the solo lane, investing an ultimate out of Ducky, rooting Belair in place in a 1v3. Belair casually sandstorms away.
That's by design. Belair was there on the right side, daring Obey Alliance to jump him. His team gets the objective. Obey finally does jump him, but it do not matter. Level 20 is Belair, his jungler, and Zapman.
Very tanky is this set build, so I'm not sure exactly what the mindset was from Obey Alliance, because they used 2 separate ultimates. They gave up an objective, a second one even in the form of a Pyromancer, and they had such a good kill lead with that first Gold Fury that they're just starting to let this game slip through their fingers from that one fight around the mid camps when they were the ones that overextended. That one team fight in middle, I love the positioning from Zapman. He was kind of playing in the mid lane, and he kind of threw Calder into the right side mid camps. He threw the permafrost over the wall. He was so safe from that positioning that all the abilities from Obey Alliance were already invested once he got back into it.
Zapman, fun fact actually, you can toss Calder at somebody and stay out of combat.
It's pretty neat. Wait, you can blink?
Toss
Okay.
Calder over a wall, get them rooted, then blink, hit them with the 1 and the permafrost from after the blink.
Oh, okay, so you would have to time your blink before Calder lands.
No. When Calder's biting, you can jump.
Oh, so it doesn't technically put you in combat.
Calder's the only one in combat. Once you permafrost, obviously, then you're in a different story. But yeah, Calder, confirmed root, blink over. Not going with the Panda Cat strategy.
You
though.
learn
He's got
something.
The beads and the Aegis this time around.
Learn something new every day, I guess. Fire Giant, not going to be looked at quite yet, but this is a baiting tactic. When Paul is level 19 with 5 items deep, he's going to be doing that kind of damage on a tanky Terra jungle.
Yeah, this is SK certainly just choosing where they want to fight. And as you said, we'll recheck with the Terra jungle. A nice hybrid build here. Half tank, half power. Weaken loses 40% of his HP there in one shot.
Maybe the mindset from the pick of the Terra jungle, or part of the consideration was also like, I can't get knocked out from Water Sprout.
Big deal. Also, we're here at 26 minutes. The fact that Terra's in the jungle no longer matters.
Yeah.
Laning phase is over. And I say this when we see the weird, like, Giannis jungles and weird, really out there stuff. It's if you're playing a gank jungler, your job is to do just that, run the pace of the game, etc. If you're playing Terra jungle, your job is to tread water until 26 minutes when you just have another Guardian. Like, this is not... Who cares where these characters came from? It's 26 minutes. It's team fight time. Your laning phase, what happened matters, but what position everybody was in doesn't matter. So that's also one of the thought processes here for Obey Alliance. Is Terra a great jungler? No. Is Terra good in the team fight in the late game? Yes. What spot do we have available? Yo, Weaken. You're not ganking today.
Well, more farm than solo and the support, so he has more items to make the plays, and Terra with more items is definitely a better idea to stick in the jungle, I guess. So we'll see how this next team fight pans out, as Weaken is level 20, fully upgraded Earth and Fury. Very obnoxious for SK Gaming to deal with, and that's why he opted for this Blink. But we really haven't seen the Blink ultimate be too successful in getting more than 3 members yet.
Not just yet. Weaken running away from Calder. And SK will invade the red buff very easily. Paul and Zapman both have a red buff. I don't have to tell you how scary that is.
Oh, yeah. Hobwai and Skadi versus 0 red buffs on your own team. That's why SK forcing this fight.
Yeah, Weaken 25% HP. Beads are available. He doesn't use them again! And Paul finds another kill. Weaken goes down. Ducky answers, but Paul with 2. NeilMah's low, but how is SK going to protect the Guardian?
They don't need to, because they're going to find the kills instead. Wowy does take out NeilMah, but the knockup from Paul was so crucial in taking out Ducky, as well as just preventing the rest of Obey Alliance from following up.
My mistake. Weaken did not have the beads available, which is why he was the target right there. Why he was the target right there. I had seen the beads below him, the Moswal beads. So that's on me. Not on Weaken. Totally, maybe we just got so used to roasting Weaken over the years that no, I'm just playing around. Shout out to the Weak Squad. Obey Alliance, though, do have to put some work in to claw their way back in. 4,000 gold down, so it's not the end of the world. This is kind of where you want to be, but the play has to be made.
It does have to be made, but when you're dealing with the late game draft from SK Gaming, this Hobwa, the Skadi, how are you going to really approach this? That's why Weekend goes for the blink, but it's only him with the blink, so that means that Ducky and Mineral are the ones peeling or re-engaging after the fact. Moswal and Wowy have to be cautious about how they play their positioning because you got 2 blinks from SK Gaming. NeilMah obviously very loose on the blink trigger finger, and Semper Soccer is not one to shy away from a fight either.
Not at all. Just shy of a half hour of play here, folks. And SK Gaming with a decent lead, 4,000 give or take. Oni Fury would extend that. It's brought down very low. But Obey Alliance make themselves known. Mineral will waddle out of there. Knock up onto Ducky.
Good poke.
The pin onto NeilMah. The push forward from SK Gaming is good. Oni Fury again brought down to 10%. Double knockup is strong. Mineral's here to provide some support. Thoth is good onto NeilMah, and this is trouble for the Guardian. Down he goes. Wowie's on a rampage. 5 in a row for the Canadian carry. Zapman answers back, but Wowie's too strong. 2 for the Soul player, and Ducky adds in. Paul and Zapman, the only 2 players alive for SK Gaming. Obey have obliterated the front line for SK. And this could be their Oni Fury, but they're a little bit shy. Now, looking at the objective.
What a smart play from Obey Alliance. The target and the threat that they recognized was NeilMah's blink no escape. So what do? Mineral puts him in combat. Not going to allow that to be a viable option. The only threat was Moswal in the backline, but he survived long enough despite the full efforts out of Belair. He really wanted that Muzen Cobb, you can tell. And with that, Obey Alliance, despite staggering
Pyro
in the mid game, no, there's going to be a Fire Giant call after that, and I totally agree with this.
Do they have a Frenzy? It's on cooldown.
All they have to do is worry about Paul, and do they have vision? They do ping him out. They do have the necessary
Paul's
vision.
not coming. No, here he is. Paul and Zapman coming through, 25% of the objective. There's the carpet. Zapman's here, looking for the throw. Calder's not in time. Obey get the Fire Giant, and now they're out of there. Paul and Zapman too slow.
They weren't in position, but Paul stopped. He didn't keep moving forward. He still had Crushing Wave as he approached, but instead, he just conceded it. I think that SK Gaming are confident in playing defense despite Obey getting the fire.
That's a good point. That is a very good point. As far as why they didn't get there, I think Paul knew that there was ward vision protecting his pathway from the mid lane to the Fire Giant, and he didn't want to expose himself without Zapman. If Paul and Zapman in tandem hit the Fire Giant at the exact same time, Obey then have to look both 9 o'clock and 12 o'clock, and trying to zone 2 different directions is very difficult. Zapman can throw Calder, Paul can toss a water spout, and maybe Fire Giant goes awry. Paul stutter steps, decides to walk forward. Him and Zapman do hit the timing, but they're 2 seconds too short, and Obey are able to confirm. This is a great turnaround for Obey Alliance.
It really is, and unfortunately for Paul, I don't think he had the vision inside the Fire Giant pit to really recognize if there was a full commit or if there was a trap around the corner. And Hopwa doesn't want to take any face-checking plays like that in the mid lane. We'll see how Obey Alliance play offense with the Fire Giant for another 2.5 minutes.
Most teams will look for the towers and just go all out clean. That's what Obey will do. I thought they were going to go for the
They were considering it. You could see that look in their eyes when all 5 players are at your doorstep. They knock at the door, or they were about to knock on the door or ring the bell, and they're like, let's go next door first.
Yeah.
This house looks a little too spooky to go trick-or-treating.
That's exactly the analogy I was going to use. Mineral leading the charge here. New to the team, but the team very welcoming. NeilMah the target one more time. Zapman dies off camera to the jungle Terra. Sam does answer back, but the left side Phoenix was the target, and down it will go. And one more time, I want to bring this up. This happened, that first team fight where Wowy goes off against the Fire Giant, that team fight that we saw a while ago. The opposite of traditional Smite wisdom happened, Toby. Paul and Zap are up. How many times in your ranked games do people say ignore the tanks, kill the carries? That is traditional, conventional Smite wisdom. But like you said, NeilMah's Blink Engage is really the big threat from SK Gaming. Belair is off soloing somebody, so you can get that solo kill because he's isolated. He's chosen to isolate himself. And Skadi, we're all celebrating the big buff, the fact that you can throw the dog. But after that, largely kind of keep her at a distance and walk away. So Obey Alliance identify that Belair, Sam, and NeilMah are the primary threats, and Paul are just following. Paul and Zap just follow up with what SK lead with. If you kill the line leaders, the carries have nobody to follow up on.
That's true.
So Obey Alliance turn the playbook on its head, start from the back of the book, and read to the front. And because of that, it's a slight lead. 3,000 gold, but they get a Fire Giant and left side bird.
And for all those reasons, I want to see Zapman change his build a little bit. Without any sort of sustain in his build, maybe build into a Bloodforge at this point, or maybe even invest into an Aussie instead. You can have all the damage you want from Paul on the Habwa, NeilMah on the Ares, but if you're going to die to a Terra diving you by herself in the backline, maybe get a Mantle of Discord, Spirit's Robe, Mag Ice Cloak just for an extra secondary Beads Cleanser. But without the Skadi there, you don't have the permafrost to rely on the defense, and that's a huge factor.
Is there a world where, with the resurgence of Skadi, you return to the drawing board a little bit, is there a world where Soul Eater fits into this build? Earlier is when I would ask for it, but is there a world where that exists?
No, I'd rather see something else, honestly, than besides a Soul Eater. Like, if you're trying to just get somebody out of position with a permafrost, you're not healing too much from that. A good defensive blink from NeilMah, avoiding the root out of Mineral. He gets caught out there. I think that middle Phoenix was going to fall immediately after.
Gold's Fury. It's the area
Double
will
taunt.
fight. Mineral grabs 2 and the double knock-up as well. There's the ultimate from Wowy right up the corridor. NeilMah very tanky though. Ultimate from Terra.
Oh, wow.
Fortunately, it's a return. Obey Alliance on their heels, but SK Gaming looking to surge forward.
They want it. They want it so bad. Belair slowing out Ducky. SK Gaming have so much mobility with the carpet coming through from Paul to not only chase down, but to reposition and force Obey Alliance to go down a pathway they don't want.
It's also really fun to kind of watch, like, I love the theatrics of Paul unfurls the red carpet as everybody walks down and looks to punch somebody in the mouth. It's very thematic.
And Belair is the little rose girl dropping the petals with the skewers, basically. That's what he's doing with his clones and the skewers. He's a little flower girl.
Does that make Zapman the ring bearer?
Oh my god, yes.
SK Gaming right now trying to take control of their game. Doug, let's take a look at those graphs real quick before the action pumps out, and that's the story. SK Gaming ran this game for a half hour, folks. And then Obey Alliance with one team fight. Shout-outs to Wowy and Mineral, in all honesty.
Yeah.
The dual lane came through in the clutch and have now grabbed control. They're looking for the EFG.
Focusing out NeilMah is starting to work out. And then also Zapman from time to time on the Skadi. Still not changing the build a little bit as SK Gaming looks like they want to contest. They will throw NeilMah to check. He sees the health bar, will concede it a little bit, knowing that Belair having to play defense on the left side with the Phoenix just now respawning.
And so SK Gaming's job here is to waste time. They don't necessarily need to steal the Fire Giant. They needed to stop the Fire Giant. And knowing that it's the enhanced Fire Giant, it's more difficult to kill. SK Gaming walked up and tried to stop it, did so. Phoenix has respawned, Belair has pushed up the lane, and now the advantage that Obey Alliance had on this Fire Giant, no longer there. There's still a monetary advantage. Obey might be able to get a 500 potion here or there if they really want to, but the advantage that Obey were leaning on for this fight, Tully, was the left side Phoenix being down. Belair has neutralized that, and now Obey Alliance and SK Gaming, for all intents and purposes, are on even footing.
Yeah, I'm surprised that Obey didn't want to force a fight by seeing Belair all the way on the left side. That was a favorable 5-on-4, but instead they're going to take a straight up fair 5-on-5 fight instead.
Sam and Belair on the left side, not willing to get involved just yet. Blink available on the support and the jungler. Obey jockeying for position around the backside. Ravana goes mid, and it will be an all-out retreat from SK Gaming, daring Obey to do what they're about to do. Enhanced Fire Giant started up here by the blue squad. Belair lurking. He's at 9. Everybody else at 12 o'clock. NeilMah isolated. He's been the target for Obey. And Obey has brought him down to half HP without any ults. But Look at Belair and Sam.
The flank, Belair and Sam for soccer are trying to play together, but Obey are recognizing it. Sandstorming into safety. This is a pincer maneuver SK are trying to do from the north and the south together.
But look at Obey Alliance. Ducky and Mineral are doing this perfectly, and shout out to the jungle Terra again. Ducky up north, and then Mineral called back down south to deal with that flank. Weakened directly in the middle of the team fight, ready to pop Terra's blessing if need be.
The one thing I'm noticing, though, from this long, drawn-out engagement is the mana pool. Wowy and Weaken's mana are almost completely depleted, and that's why they are backing. I'm not sure if that was spotted out by SK Gaming, but they certainly have slowly chipped away at that resource to be able to just still stall it out a little bit longer.
I love this choice. The mana was low, players had to back, and Obey thought that they weren't on any wards, and they thought correctly. But just in case they missed a ward drop, Ducky sits there. He goes, okay, I'll walk up. It's EFG. I can stop it if I need to. My team can catch up. Ducky very tanky at this point. Still has the Glad Shield, but Pridwin, Onis, I mean, it's going to take a lot to kind of bring down the Osiris. 16 mitigations, right?
Yeah, 16% physical, 8% magical. You also have the Oni's Hunter to give yourself percent mitigation. Yeah, 9% I believe in total once you're next to 3 targets.
Belair jumps away, no problem. 40 minutes on the clock. This is how this set was expected to go, if you ask me. SK Gaming the top card, but they labor for their games. NeilMah here. Knocked up. Player still on the Fire Giant, 90%. NeilMah grabs 2, but the team not in position to really answer. The jump back, Weaken in trouble, Ducky in trouble as well. SK Gaming, 25%, but Belair off camera takes care of Moswal. Ducky's low, Belair takes care of Wowy as well. Ducky hanging on by a thread, and Mineral go left. Ducky answered back, Belair has 3, and SK Gaming on the run. Little bit of help from the Habwa. There's the knock up. Belair stunned for the moment. The kick is good, chains are strong, and Belair's gonna catch up. Paul puts one down. 4 players in a coffin for a long time. Totally. Fire Giant not even needed. The tower goes down. The Phoenix goes down. And the game will follow. A long, drawn-out one. And Obey Alliance had it in their hands, but they dropped it on their feet.
It was so unfortunate with the death of Weaken and that deicide. The very first death from Wowy was the worst possible timing. It opened the door from SK Gaming to chase everyone else down, get 3 more additional kills. Nothing that the solo Terra jungle can do afterwards.
I can't hate that performance from Obey Alliance. I think Mineral had exactly the type of performance that you kind of expect out of a new call-up. The early moments were a little bit shaky, some curious decisions, some things, some bad habits that you form playing in a lower league perhaps, but then as the game kind of went on, the shot calls came through, and the team really came together. Again, dropped at the last moment.
They really did. They had so much going in their favor, but they were just so overzealous. The pincering maneuver from SK Gaming eventually caught up with Obey when they had to relinquish control at that Fire Giant, and they started to fall behind once they did force that last one.
Belair, fantastic work towards the end. It takes care of the team fight. It's 1-0 SK. We'll be back with Game 2.
Respawn, the official gaming chair of the Smite Pro League.
Hey guys, we got a new show coming out called Roll Q. This week on the premiere episode, we sat down with a bunch of the best ADCs to ever do it and talk about their hunter play, or as Funball often says during the episode, the carries, because there's a distinct difference.
I think Season 3, Emily's was the best hunter who's ever played. Well, I guess he played Aegis actually.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah, you know.
Carries.
Yeah. Best carry player the game has seen.
So check it out, and thanks for watching.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Smite Pro League. My name is Finch, and that clip that you just saw is indeed from Roll Q. Go check that show out if you want to hear from some of the best who have ever done it. I'm hoping Aggro's going to keep that going, so make sure that you keep checking it out. To help me break down, though, that game one that we just watched between Obey and SK, I have Taco right here next to me. And Taco, that one was a back-and-forth game, wasn't it?
About what we expected to see, quite honestly,
Sure.
Finch. Maybe not so much from SK's perspective. That team's probably not as satisfied with how uneasy things were looking in that early game. But talk about a turn-up factor for Obey here, Finch. They looked hot at the start, and I can't take that away from them in the slightest. Even almost managed to bring this set back into their favor, but ultimately faltered against the pressure from SK.
That's right. They had some early pressure. Moswal had a good start to this game. Then it started to kind of slip away. Ducky was in some trouble, and then they kind of come back into it. It was up and down, Taco.
And this is part of that up and down that we were just mentioning. Moswal gets a really nice double kill to kick things off. Terra jungle, by the way, which is a real
right.
thing, especially if you're weakened. It is a very real thing. But unfortunately, all that pressure that Obey kind of started to build in the early game just falls short. A lot of emphasis from SK placed into that solo lane and trying to shut Ducky down. It made things very difficult, I think, for Weekend to figure out which direction he should try and focus out on the map. And more importantly, SK managing to clean things up a little bit surrounding these objective fights because they were a little bit questionable. Obey had a really nice one to kind of turn things around and make this set just all the more of a barn burner.
Yeah, this fight that you highlighted, it just kind of shows how back and forth the nature of this game was. Wowy actually had a pretty monster game, I would say, on the side of Obey, not falling, I think, until that final push that you see getting made by Belair on that set from the short lane. In the solo side, but that's what really turned this game around because really it was Obey that was in control. It looked like they were finally about to make that push train in the game, and then Belair, there's just too many low HP targets near him, and my man pops off.
The enhanced fire giant dance, it's a tough one to manage. There was some sustain from Weekend out of that Terra jungle, but it just was not enough. Once SK finally managed to split apart the forces of Obey, it was impossible for that front line to recover. Backline gets fully exposed, and Belair manages to kind of sneak around with the ultimate flank maneuver, securing a nice little triple kill to close out the match.
And for what it's worth, I do have a couple takeaways from it. I think that the Terra actually did work in this game. I know there's probably a lot of skeptics out there, but I don't think that's the reason they lost that game. It's actually doing a ton of damage for them early. I do think that Mineral clearly had some growing pains as he gets used, I think, to playing at quite this high of a level, but there were also some bright spots there for him too. I think that if you are on the side of Obey, this first game should be encouraging for you.
That Ares pickup as well, I think, was just so restrictive against Mineral
Yes.
with the Erlang. Didn't really give him many opportunities to look for that turtle form knockup to try and find some initiation factors there for Obey. Probably the best instance that we saw from Mineral was utilizing that 9 turns blessing, which gave them that Oni Fury fight, and that was where we saw Obey. And I thought for a second they were about to take it home, man, because they get the Oni Fury, they get a fire giant, they start pushing, but that siege, it was just so difficult into SK, and like we said, experience kind of trumped here.
I think so too. That's what came out a little bit on top. We're getting ready for those picks and bans now for game number 2. Obey will be in the first pick spot. And for what it's worth, I do also think there's a lot of things that SK did correctly on top of some of the things that maybe didn't go well for Obey in that last game. Clearly, Belair popped for them too on this set. That's one thing. But I don't know, man. If you're going to spend 2-3 bans on Paul, but he still gets to play Habois, I almost don't know that you've done enough. I don't even know if those are valuable bans because he plays Habois so well.
And I have to get a little nitpicky here as well, just because SK is the more seasoned team at this stage. Obey, having had that recent roster swap from Ionic to now Mineral on that team, I'm not going to lie, Finch. I was expecting a lot cleaner of gameplay from SK. I don't think that if SK wants to consider themselves a top 6 team right now, you can't really afford to be struggling this much against Obey with that recent roster swap.
I'm right there with you. I think that we'll get that contextualized a little bit based on how the rest of the set goes. Maybe there's a chance that, SK just came out slow and they'll ramp up. But if Obey look like real contenders throughout the rest of this set, then I probably won't, put that as so much as a knock against SK as Obey looking better than we thought. It just depends. At the end of this one, if they end up kind of beating them throughout the rest of it, then I'll go, yeah, you guys got to clean up that game once.
Yeah, it's mostly me clarifying on the fact that SK, having been the team that's been solidified for so much longer, having a little bit more experience and synergy time playing together, they should be the clear out in front team.
Agreed.
In this matchup.
Wow, the Erlang Shen first picked here again by Obey. They do ban away this Ares, and maybe that's the idea. We do still want to go back to the Erlang. He is still incredibly strong despite Mineral's stats last time, not looking great. But if they don't have to worry about this Ares from Neil, I think they're in a much better spot. It's just that now they're doing it into a Morrigan, and that's pretty scary.
And it's not a guarantee that Morrigan's going to be for Paul either. Keep in mind that Zapman has been playing his fair amount of the mage over in the duo lane. He even mentioned it in that interview that we had prior to the set being played. Zap saying, hey, mages run that dual lane right now, and it's going to make things all the more difficult as well for Wowy to try and find a suitable matchup that, if this is a Morrigan ADC, Zap can't take advantage of him for.
Exactly right. The Muzen Cobb now gets locked in for Obey along with the King Arthur. This King Arthur, I imagine, will be going over to Ducky. I made a big point about how it felt like he didn't get many winning matchups in Phase 1, but with Osiris in Game 1 here, and now King Arthur in Game 2, I kind of don't feel like that excuse is there for Ducky anymore. They're getting him priority picks.
And for what it's worth, I think Ducky looked pretty good in Game 1. There was just a lot of focus that SK put into the solo lane to try and shut him down. SK mostly just abusing the fact that the Terra jungle, while it definitely served its purpose, Finch, just did not have consistent pressure throughout the map.
Right, it might not be as strong in those fights around those jungle buffs, maybe. I think that it's definitely stronger when you are the team that is aggressing, and there were some times when Weekend was able to step forward, have some surprise burst and control, and caught SK off guard. There are also times where Weekend looked like he didn't have much going for him at all, just kind of standing around.
Well, SK's best fights were surrounding Weekend's back timers. They were really just paying attention to whenever the Terra was actually heading back to base for that buy, and, well, if Terra's away, then that's a big team fighting component that Obey was really missing out on. No real surprises here either. SK not going to give Weekend another chance or a redemption shot round for that Terra to have that W.
Wow, but I mean, hey, man, that should make it a little bit of light in Weekend's chest, right? I mean, if they're respect fan in the Terra, you got to feel good after that one. Batz comes in for SK, and that is scary because they already have the Morrigan. Double Fear No Evil in a fight, that's almost impossible to deal with. You have to use so many cooldowns that first time just to make it through. If that's the target that they end up picking, that's a lot of control.
Maybe an Uller ban could be warranted here for Obey, simply because of the fact that Uller, both Paul and Zapman, very comfortable on that pick choice. Has a lot of burst damage to follow up from a set and the control out of a Fear No Evil, or a possible double Fear No Evil, mind you. Plus, I really like stand switchers into the King Arthur.
They feel pretty good as Chang'e gets banned away, as well as Hapwa banned away from Paul. So it looks like Obey are keeping their comp pretty close. Right now, the only difference is Osiris taken out for King Arthur, but they are banning away some key pieces from SK. They're not going to have that Ares for Neil, nor will they have the Hapwa for Paul. But this was kind of the point I was making before, man. I don't know if it's worth banning Paul if you're not going to go all in on it, because he'll just play something like Merlin.
I was curious if Obey was going to, pick their poison essentially between a Merlin, Hapwa, Uller, a lot of different options that Paul could have selected here, in all honesty, Finch. But more importantly, I am a little bit concerned about SK in terms of their lack of crowd control. This is very much dependent on SK just having the damage off that initial follow-up for the Fear No Evil.
Whoa, is Zero's back in here? I thought that he already finished playing here for today. Thoth has been locked in now for Obey, along with the Geb. Very interesting. This gives him a ton of long-range artillery, even a little bit of added control, and then when you factor in the Geb, that's even more control and safety. I don't know. I think Obey might have actually gotten a pretty good draft here.
I think Obey outdrafted SK, but as far as the execution is concerned, that's where this team could maybe find some of those struggles, because have to remember, SK love running at you in that early game. They've certainly drafted a composition that's going to cater to that playstyle as well. If Obey manages to survive the first 20 minutes, not even make plays, just survive that initial laning phase of farm, 20 minutes and beyond, this should be Obey's game to win.
I definitely think that this one could be. I mean, once Geb comes online, you got an AMC and a Thoth that he's protecting. It's so difficult to deal with. But the thing that's tough about SK is that they're both capable of running you down in the early game, but also just bunkering down for 25 minutes and defending Phoenixes. They're happy to do either one.
It can definitely be frustrating when you're trying to siege against the likes of a Merlin, even the Ganesha with those Dharmic Pillars to slow and limit space. But I really like the range as well. And if Obey do find themselves on the back foot needing to defend their own structures, they've got Thoth, they've got Muzen Cobb. Even the King Arthur can serve as all heavy preventative measures for SK being able to freely siege. They're not going to be able to work into those Phoenixes very easily with that Humbat's Morrigan.
And it is looking more like that Morrigan's probably going to Zapman. So let's find out. Obey up against SK. Game number 2, Tom and Tully.
You might have heard me sigh as we get ready for game number 2. I'm still reflecting off of that Obey loss, Tully. That was so impressive watching this team kind of claw their way back in. And again, that last team fight, they handled SK's trap well. They split their front line. It was just a little too much to handle. Belair went off, and he'll be able to do the same thing again on the set solo. Obey this time changing things up for Moswal, giving him a traditional mage, and Wowy, the old school hunter. And I think we're in one of Weekend's video series.
Oh, the A to Z?
No, the Guardian in the Jungle series here. Game number 1, the Terra jungle came out. Game number 2, he's doing the old Geb jungle. Shout out to I Like Cats. We'll see if this one works out.
The new title of the video was going to be like, you won't believe how much Geb shield health I have.
You won't believe the farm Geb gets in the jungle.
Geb jungle in SPL, question mark, exclamation point. But in all seriousness, Geb jungle, just like Terra jungle, as long as you get to the 20 minutes or later in the game, you'll still achieve the Guardian task.
Belair able to get out of there. Last time we saw Geb jungle, I was very critical, and it was really not a strong strategy. The game has largely changed, I think, in the Geb jungle now. Still not my favorite, but after watching the Terra decision last game, I think it's very similar, where you just... So, for those at home, Geb damage does some dirty things. You're talking percent damage on the ultimate. You're talking really big scaling on the knockup when you're up close and personal. But don't expect any real hard ganks from this character. Again, it's very much like what we saw out of the Terra. Early game, it might be a little bit silly. We'll shake our heads as a bad invade comes out. But I think, 1, the Geb will be more impactful with that ultimate. It's immediately impactful. And 2, yeah, tread water till 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and you're good.
It's so important to get off to a good start, and Weekend is going to try to do that. But it's actually the other jungler, Zapman, trying to make a play onto Wowy. The turnaround with Mineral around this corner. Blink available for Mineral. Instead, he's going to get the root. No jump from Zapman for another couple seconds.
Weekend's here. Blink is available. You can blink, knock up, decides against it. Not sure if it would have confirmed the kill. I like the decision to stay a little bit more conservative. You're an early game Geb jungle. Your kill potential is, let's say, low.
Especially when you're blinking into a Morrigan that's ready and primed to stun you upon landing. So respect the patience from a Weekend. A little bit slower in the Assassin's Blessing stacks, but after stealing some of these jungle camps, going to actually catch up and might even get ahead afterwards, as Geb jungle versus Geb support versus even Geb solo from time to time is not really much different, because like you're still getting the percent damage of the Cataclysm, right? Like it doesn't really scale in terms of damage. You're just looking for the most farm available, and I think in Season 6 that comes from the jungle.
Yeah. It absolutely does. You know, it's certainly not the solo lane anymore. I think the jungle and the carry role is where we talk about that for sure. The carry role has become what solo lane once was. It's very interesting. You know, back when you were playing and the big names were Azalea, Cyclone, Spin, and Omega, that was the position where it was like, well, you get the most farm. Traditionally, there's tanks there, but guess you can play a Kali or a Bakasura
Yeah.
or a Ra. Shoutouts to you. Then you look over there in the long lane now. You're like, well, hunters go here, but I guess you could play a Zhang Kui or a Morrigan or a Ebo.
New WoW, whatever. Whatever you really want under the sun. Thoth has been played there. Soul has been played there. And the scaling from the Geb doesn't have that much damage, so you're not really looking to build damage if you're on weakened side. You're looking to build a lot of cooldown reduction to spam your abilities and a lot of utility. I'm expecting a Relic Dagger similar to the last game of trying to get off more blinks.
Absolutely. Relic Dagger has been fantastic. We see multiple per game, and it's funny. 30 seconds and 40 seconds? I mean, it's exactly 10 seconds in between
Still
there.
a big deal.
30 seconds was good enough. 40 seconds has tipped it over where we saw 3 on one team last game. It is absolutely a big deal. And that's what we're talking about, you know, beads. When you look at lower cooldown, like Frenzy and stuff like that, it's really, really silly. So, and also, yeah, just the passive by itself would be attractive. It comes with health.
Yeah, it's such a cost-effective item. It's only 1850 gold total.
Wowy in trouble here. The Fear No Evil looking good as Zapman makes the turn into the gap. Shields himself. Sam needs to find it, but the monkey bounce does it. Sam will get the double kill. All for the assist from his carry Geb. The more something weird happened there, folks. But Sammy winds up with 2 kills, and 2 kills to 1 is our score.
I'll take that trade every time if I'm SK Gaming, despite First Blood, I believe, going to Obey Alliance. Wowy with the last hit there. It's a funny story to see how this game starts compared to that first game, because it opened up with Obey getting a 2-for-1 when it was SK trying to focus out Mineral at that level 2 marker with the blink play from NeilMah's Ares. But this time, not going for the blink on the Ganesha, going for the shell, thinking about safety as opposed to the offense.
And sometimes you got to do that. That safety. NeilMah all in
1
for
for
those
1
harpsichords.
I believe that was a 1-for-1. Either way,
all in.
You know how there was like a bunch of memes of like ulti the Totem of Ku every game? Ulti the mid harpies every game.
They must have heard me talking back to season 2 and were like, hey, remember when?
With the hog meta? Yeah.
You'd have the 3-player meetup in mid lane every time, and it'd be all your cooldowns for those mid harpies on a 2-minute and 30-second cooldown.
Something like that.
It was, because that was the entire game, keeping that cooldown in your mind.
It was so obnoxious.
Shoutouts to Marauder back in the day. Nah, Belair should live after this. Goes to the.
I don't
clone.
know.
Nah, he fine, dog.
Ducky could have actually dove that if he wants to. He has the Sundering Strike, but instead gonna play it cautiously at level 7 with only Gladiator Shield. 14 stacks on that Warrior's Blessing. Doesn't have the defense to really absorb that tower the way he would normally like.
Mid lane group up. NeilMah gonna get poked out a little bit. I say this about, we said this about Pretty Prime when Prime was playing some of the hunters, and look, in no world am I saying Moswal can't pilot the AMC. Looked fine, sure. In no world am I saying that I want to see him on a mage, dude.
Yep.
That's what Mozzie does. Give him a mage. I understand it's not what's super hot right now, but I think that's the beauty of this metagame right now, quote unquote, is that there are things that you can deviate from what the top teams are doing. You just lean on what you're good at.
Zapman in a 1v2 could transform into the Hunbats. Counter Fear No Evil onto Weaken. Geb Shield enough to save his life.
I love that Zapman decides not only so. I think 9 out of 10 players drop the Fear No Evil and run. He drops the Fear No Evil and goes, you know what, Weaken? I'm going to punch you back real quick. Maybe I even get the kill.
Yep, because that during the duration of the CC, he has enough time to evaluate whether he can keep going for the kill or the disengage at level 1 rank. I believe it's about a 1 second duration, could be 1.25, and that's plenty of time to get off just overhand smash during the Changeling transformation. So great play from Zapman surviving. Did have to use the beads, but this is Weaken's game plan, is like focus out the side lane, trying to get Zapman behind. Not really doing the best job at that, seeing how Wowy is still the same level. In fact, Zapman hitting level 9 first, and Weaken by making his presence on the left side of the map in more than one case. It's Sam with a 2-level advantage after that 2-for-1 trade early on.
The Geb jungle here, I think, makes a lot more sense than the Terra jungle because of the immediate application, right? The Terra blinks in your lane and activates ultimate that blows you up after 4 hits. Like, yeah, you can land the stun, the root is nice, but really, Blink Kata will always be Blink Kata.
Yeah.
And it's less about weaken getting the damage and causing the kill and more, all right, they're stunned and knocked up. My lane teammate will help me out.
And you're talking about playing setup jungle. Weekend looking for Zapman yet again, and he smells him around the corner. Something is not really fresh around this side of the map. So Zapman gonna back on off there. But when Weekend's playing setup Geb jungle, Thoth Final Judgment takes a long time to channel. So even during Cataclysm and Knockup, you're not gonna get a fully charged ultimate.
This is a fully charged ultimate and then some. Sam sends a player through the box, and NeilMah sends them all the way back to the penalty box. Nice job there from SK Gaming, combining their ults.
Good timing as well. Crusher completed from Zapman, a power spike onto a level 7 Erlang Shen. You take those every single time.
Ducky in trouble here. 3 players in SK jerseys. One's going to set him up. Here comes Weekend, though. Available is the ultimate and the blink, and he'll do just that. Player knocked up, and here comes the damage still onto Ducky. All lurking in the wings. Shows up, takes some damage out of the Thoth guy.
Uh-oh, the
Moswal dashes forward. Shell's good for now, but Mineral finishes them off. Team fight after the fact. NeilMah knocked up, but Ducky knocks Sam all the way down. And the support is gone as well. Ducky with 2, and that'll tie the kills up, tie the gold up largely, trailing by about 600. But after the camp, and a little bit of farm, this is a nice even game. Obey makes sure that SK Gaming don't get to launch the way they were planning on it.
When you see a mage aggressively dash, calculate the kind of damage the way Moswal did after the Final Judgment, you can tell he's in his comfort zone.
That's what I was saying. Give him a mage.
Yeah, he's playing so well. Like, even like not having any kills, the 3 assists, his 1 life was worth 3 kills there. Obey Alliance really turning the game on its head now.
Yeah. Give him a mage, man. Moswal has been a strong look. Don't forget, I think, you know, there's a lot of conversation to be had about winning a world championship.
Sure.
Moswal's got a ring.
does.
Moswal won the world championship.
Weekend has a ring.
Obviously didn't do it by himself. The most recent. He's the defending world champion, Moswal. Obviously didn't do it by himself, and lots of conversations to be had, but Mozzie knows what it takes to be on a winning team. Mozzie knows what it's like to have this victory. And to join Obey Alliance, I think this is a very big, big gain. Not just because of, you know, if he's good at the character or not, but understanding the culture and what it is to be there, I think it's a big look.
And that damage was brought to you by only a level 10 Thoth with 2.5 items.
Yeah.
Give it about 10 to 15 minutes when this Thoth is level 17 to 20 with about 5 items deep. He's going to start almost one-shotting those squishies in the backline. Paul's positioning going to have to be damn near perfect to avoid the Final Judgment.
Zeros played the Thoth earlier today, had it banned away from him almost immediately. Zeros, of course, the perennial Thoth guy, I would say.
But he played it in the long lane.
Yes, he did.
Against Arkill's on her. He got punished in that early laning phase, but then after that, he kind of changed up his style. But despite falling behind early, Thoth still going to do Thoth late game things, so hard to really lock down this mage.
Hell yeah. Sometimes that's the analysis, man. Hell yeah. Wowy. Controlled with the ultimate, jumps up and down. Nice ultimate. Zapman blinks over to Moswal. Nice job to avoid the damage out of the EMC, but gets it given to him by the mid lane mage. Paul puts Mozzie in a box. Wowy gets on out of there. It's a 1-for-1.
I love the idea that Zapman had to force the fight knowing his teammates were right around the corner, but the execution at the tail end of it to teleport to the monkey bounce, a little bit of an unnecessary death. However, even with the survival of Zapman, I don't think they get much out of it, but they might get something on the right side.
Wigan adults defensively, but not good enough. Zapman will find another one. 5-1-0. As his team has 6 kills, Paul blinks over the wall. That should be good. Zapman, man. This is his game. He's looking real good. 2 levels above, sure, it's a jungle again, but 2 levels above his opposition. Every single play he has made has been impactful. And as I said, 5 out of 6 of his team's kills belong to him.
SK are just grouping up a little bit better than Obey Alliance this game. Wherever the action is on the map, SK are either forcing it or already seeing it coming in advance and coming in with the numbers. And this is not really too bad still for Obey Alliance.
Oh, no.
Dealing with it, I think that the plays coming out of Moswal have been solid, and Mineral has been making a relatively sound performance in Game 2.
I mean, Obey is technically, oh wait, not anymore. 1 wave win. There's about a 50 gold differential, but after this Pyromancer goes to Obey Alliance, I mean, Obey will technically be in the lead, and I lean on that technically, 'cause it's a very small lead for sure. Both teams tied, if you want my money.
Expecting some aggression on the left side with a rotation coming through from Sam for Soccer. His Blink not available though, sitting at level 11. Now can have access to that second relic slot, stripping away that red buff. Important stripping away as well. A level 14, a Muzen cop, if left alone on that left side of the map, can probably start up the Gold Fury and then eventually reset it if SK are caught sleeping.
Has the Transcendence, though. Usually for that sort of thought process, you want the Devo gloves.
You do, but as long as you can juggle the Gold Fury a little bit, or you could take half of your health as damage to eventually reset it, you'll also do half damage to the Gold Fury objective. It doesn't take much time for an Muzen comp at this stage in the game with red buff to melt that objective. That physical power is going to go through the roof.
Especially now with the Crusher finished. 15 minutes in here, folks. All tied up. Charlie, do you remember the time of the last one? It was a long one.
It was a little bit long, actually. I believe it was like around 40-something minutes. Zapman, though, constantly getting focused on the left side.
Chased out the ultimate. Beautiful play there by Mineral. Mineral did exactly what he needed to and nothing more.
Yeah.
A lot of times you'll see a character kind of over-invest, get hit by that ultimate, get turned on. Mineral just demands it, gets it out. Nice job. No more changeling available for Zapman for quite a while. He's got, what, 30% CDR? Okay, so maybe pretty soon.
SK Gaming had vision around the Gold Fury side if they saw out this rotation from Mineral, but instead Zapman playing a little bit too, not recklessly, but just not cautious enough to respect the rotation. He did earlier on. He still hasn't died, but within this 120 seconds, it's plenty of a window for Obey to keep forcing some plays down. And the way they played in game number 1, I'm expecting the same for game number 2.
Sam for Soccer looking for his next victim. Wowy in the jungle. That's that spectator bias right there. I talk about how we have all the information in the world and the teams obviously have their own vision. If Sam jumped over the wall, Wowy was super dead. Obviously no vision there for Sam to understand that. Wowy walked to the left instead of to the right, but certainly fun watching like two ships in the night.
As they cross the pass, never to be seen again. Weaken not to be seen as he rolls out.
If a Geb falls in the forest and nobody's there to see it, does it make a noise?
Yes.
You know what noise it makes? Globe.
The little global emote. It's the best emote by far.
Gold Fury, not Globe Fury. Will be aggressed on and shredded. SK Gaming.
Close one.
Easy for Paul. Close, as totally said, but Paul shredding that objective for sure.
Yeah, with a red buff. Wowy was just barely able to not steal that one. Throws the Beast Swarm, throws out the Stinger because it does pass through minions and still does damage to jungle bosses as well. A nice attempt there as Obey Alliance. They have the playmaking opportunities, but they definitely slowed it down in the past couple of minutes. They're just kind of biding their time until Ducky really comes online. Even Belair having to respect this using the beats.
The stun is good, and the damage into Moswal is strong. Ultimate cuts off the option. Beautiful play. No jokes here when I call that one a zoning ultimate. The ultimate goes up top, and the King Arthur goes down bottom. Belair realizes, damned if you do, damned if you don't. That is not a miss in my book. That is a great cutoff of the option, and Belair goes ahead and falls down. Obey pushing up the right lane.
I mean, Belair wasn't going south to avoid that Thoth ultimate. He was zigzagging to try to buy time for that sandstorm.
Zapman with the double stun up top, and the Fear No Evil on the bottom. Trouble for Weekend as he goes down. Mineral also feels the wrath of Paul. Ducky on the flank will deal with the jungler, but Paul one more time is looking at Ducky under the tower. Moswal isolated by Neil and Zapman. And Moswal fighting back into Zapman. Neil shows up though. Turn of fate, turn of tables, baby. Love potion number 9 for SK Gaming.
Ooh, the slow just off the mark. Now Ducky looking to sustain a little bit with the Gladiator Shield. Getting silenced out by NeilMah. Paul needs one more ability. Gets it.
How dare you, says SK. I can hear them spit on the ground. Like, how dare you look for us like that? Oh, man, SK smacks that Obey right in the face, answers back, and now leads about 1,500.
So I understand the idea of like, okay, you get a pick in the mid game, you're feeling confident in a 5-on-4 power play for about 30 seconds. Let's find something, boys. Tier 2 tower, soul lane, let's go group up. But the problem was Moswal, he used that ultimate earlier on. I believe Mineral didn't have that ultimate weaken as well during that team fight to make an impact for a successful siege. Also, I'm not sure if they knew Zapman was actually stealthing in from the north side as fast as he did.
Yeah. That was a turn for me. Mr. Zappist came around, got the double stun.
Yeah.
That was a very big deal. And NeilMah providing the silence and the protections while Ducky.
Oh, weekend. Locked and loaded was SK Gaming for this Geb jungle. The silence lasting a little bit long. No beads available.
You say locked and loaded. Yeah, Weekend was locked up and loaded because it looked like he was drunk. What are you doing there by yourself, surrounded by SK? I don't know, man. Don't like that play, especially as the Geb. When you're playing the jungle, when you're playing Geb, you don't have that kill potential. Mathematically, yeah, I know I'm going to get blasted. Look at the scaling. Weekend is not that build. Weekend is a facilitator build. Weekend needs somebody else there. I didn't like him going in by himself.
It's not even that, honestly, because number one, the scaling is only 50% on the knockout, 50% on the roll. The bigger factor was that Moswal was split pushing on the long lane side anyway. So even if the engage happens of Weekend's blink, where's your real follow-up if Moswal's on the left? It just didn't make sense.
A lot of times we talk about reflection for the losing team. All right, we made a play, we got beat up. Let's reflect on what went wrong and fix it.
Sure.
You also have to reflect on what's going right. For soccer gets blown up. Okay, we see you. All right.
Same thing that SK Gaming just did, and now returning the favor.
But so Obey Alliance have been successful outside of that one. That's the outlier, of course, Caster's Curse. Obey has been successful when Moswal and Ducky kind of destroy the team fight.
Sure.
So, again, reflect not just on your mistakes, but on your successes as well. You have to look. It's 21 minutes in. You got to go, how did we get here? How have we been successful? It's been off of the back of Moswal and Ducky. Moswal and Ducky aren't there. Stop. We've been successful playing through these players. Wait for them. Now you've got Moswal, Mineral, and Wowy on the left side of the map. This is immediately more interesting to me. Our solo laners are making the rotation, and Geb will be met in the middle. Left lane push, probably a little presumptuous. Obey is down 2,000 gold, don't forget. But the Oni Fury's poised to respawn in 9 seconds, and Obey Alliance have positioning. SK Gaming are willing to make the flank. Look at Belair. Keep him in your mind. And Zapman has the invisibility as well.
No beads for Sam for another 50 seconds. Mineral going to get targeted out a little bit. No real follow-up from SK Gaming. Not aware of exactly all the positionings out of Obey. A little of a dance around this left side. Finally, Obey feeling confident enough to pull this objective. NeilMah going to peek his head around the corner, but pay attention to where Sam and Moswal are on the left.
40% on the big guy. Zapman going all the way around looking for Moswal. He's the guy that's going to go ahead and put a dot on the objective. And Zapman, isolating the objective secure player, takes Obey off of the Oni Fury altogether.
Moswal did back, but I'm not sure if SK Gaming actually spotted that one out. They see just how far back Obey are, so they might recognize just off of that intel alone that the mid laner had to back, but instead still playing cautious. They're going to rely a lot onto this Morrigan with the Bombus Mask to make a play.
Get on the left side.
He actually blinked ultied, but he was out of range. Zapman used his stealth and had the movement speed to walk away from the Cataclysm.
SK Gaming aren't walking away from this moment. The 2,000 gold lead hasn't moved. There's the box dropped by NeilMah, slowing Wowy down. Ducky surges forward. Mineral's here as well, and Mineral going to be isolated on the wrong side of the wall. SK Gaming pushing forward, and Ducky around the back line, rotating like a weird sort of yin-yang almost. And Belair has to find a way out. Another reset.
3 different angles of fight occurring there as Ducky was kind of zoning away Zap after the flank that he did, distracting Weaking a little bit longer. The ultimate coming through from Neil was a little bit early, I would say. I don't think that the team fight was forced quite yet, as with Mineral was also at that Gold Fury pit. He was getting zoned away by the Blizzard from Paul, but SK Gaming didn't want to really push on any further. So instead, we're still dancing around the Oni Fury for about 2 minutes straight, it feels like.
That was a very frightening moment, I think, for Mineral, for sure. He got caught on the other side of that Gold Fury wall, and there was nothing he could do. But like you said, SK decided not to collapse. If we play the coulda, shoulda, woulda game, right? SK collapses, but Obey can probably find their way around that and then pincer the whole thing together, resulting in an Oni Fury tie game. Who knows what comes after that? So an important decision from SK Gaming to disengage and eject out of the team fight altogether. And Erlang and Gab are here.
Zapman and Ducky are not, as they're contending the right side map. Was looking for the tier 2 tower, now rotating around with Bombus Mask. Will be there before Ducky.
Wowy, Moswal, go ahead and take down NeilMah. I get a little bit worried seeing Moswal use the ultimate, but now it's all about the team fight. Wowy goes down to the solo lane set, and 2 players will lock San Francisco in. But he blinks out. He gets into combat.
Really? Zapman, meanwhile, having to transform into the Hunbats just to get away from Ducky. A 1-for-1 exchange support for Hunter, heavily favoring out SK Gaming.
More time, Belair finds an exit. 3,000 gold in SK's favor. They trade a support for a carry. We'll take that every day.
And I was always curious about how this mid-jungle synergy is going to pan out, but honestly, with this point of Moswal's power spike, he doesn't need to fully channel his ultimate to be effective, as long as he times it during the knockup. Even onto a tanky Guardian such as NeilMah was enough follow-up damage. I don't think SK Gaming were really prepared for that kind of engage, and that was only a little foreshadowing of the damage that Obey is truly capable of, because it's still going to increase for the next 5 to 10 minutes.
I mean, Obey were a team that almost took the first game. SK had to really try for that last team fight. This time around, I think SK has had a little bit more of a handle on things totally, but by no means does that mean it's over.
Good zoning. Ducky taking about 10 to 15% of his health, about 20% now. Moswal being checked by Belair. Belair, though, in a 1v3, he could fall.
Okay, the SK Gaming team pick up the Oni Fury. And this should be a disengage, but not if Mineral puts himself in harm's way. Knocked up twice, and there's Moswal through the wall, bringing players down to 40, but there's no follow-up, and so SK are still looking at Mineral.
They are looking at Mineral after the initial pickup to Ducky, trying to contest that Gold Fury. SK Gaming with a 5-on-4 power play, despite eating that final judgment by 3 players, are still feeling very confident to utilize Paul's damage on this Merlin. It's only 13,000 now, not the highest in the game, but it's starting to provide that utility that they need. The Blizzard with his Gem of Isolation makes it impossible for Ducky to really contest this objective, knowing he doesn't have the blink.
Yeah, I love the word control when it comes to the Merlin mage.
You would like control. Dirty magic control player.
That's
red
me.
and blue deck.
Hey man, that's what it is, and Merlin can do all that and get a bag of chips. He's bringing the objective shred when it comes down to the red, when it comes down to the fire side, when it comes down to the ice side, he's going to look for the slow and the control, and obviously the arcane will snap players back if that's where he decides to go. Fire Giant started, but it's all a sham. It's all about the fight. Weekend is going to roll away, but here comes NeilMah. Zapman takes care of that with a nice little stun. The jungle Geb is worm food. Zapman jumps out after the Fear No Evil transformation, and Obey Alliance are stuck in a corridor, but it's on their own terms. Ducky gets one. NeilMah falls down to the hand of the support, and Ducky looking for a second, and then turns around after a minute.
VVVT, it's a trap set up by SK Gaming, but Obey Alliance managed to turn that right on its head. I don't think that the Dharmic Pillars and Fear No Evil were the most optimal. I get it, you see one target, you want to blow all your cooldowns onto it, which was weakened, even forcing out the Aegis out of Wowy, but Obey Alliance are biting off more than they could chew. They're taking way too much damage here, Tom.
The Frenzy was popped by Mineral, so the call was to finish the Fire Giant. But nobody else agreed. Trouble there with the calls.
I didn't notice, but maybe it was still on cooldown. I wasn't 100% aware if it was up or not once the Fire Giant was started. But
no, Frenzy was popped towards the end of it.
Yeah,
like,
but I'm not sure if that's when the cooldown was refreshed or not. So trying to force something out of nothing there, but still Obey Alliance are heavily not out of this game, despite having a little bit of a deficit in both the kills and the gold. Their composition has a lot of control, just like SK Gaming. That Batz Ganesh combo was nice and pretty to look at. But I think Mineral and Weekend can do just as good, if not better.
Well, here's Weekend by himself. And he'll do just as good, if not better, rolling on out.
Zapman wanting to transform. You could hear that animation being started from the Changeling ultimate, but it got interrupted, so ultimate will not be used. That's actually, I think, a good thing, because I think if Zap gets stunned after the Changeling ultimate, he wouldn't be able to really chase that down, and it would have been a wasted cooldown.
Certainly something to think about. SK Gaming starting to think about the Fire Giant. 5,000 gold, give or take, more like 4,500. But that's their lead so far.
I love this play from Zap. He's just going to split push every time. As Morrigan with Bumba's Mask, you have the mobility. The other 4 SK members are required to play defense on the right side of the map during this downtime.
As you said, he can rotate throughout the map very quickly, not only because of the character he's playing, but also the build. Bumba's Mask got to go fast.
Easy. Easy for Zap.
Easy?
Easy for Zap, man.
Is he going to get it?
He's going to get it.
Are you sure he's going to get it?
He'll get it later. He'll get it later. There's no rush. It's all it's Zapulated right there. He knew if he stayed an extra second, he would die.
That's very true, but not what we were saying, Tolly. Oh, man. Zapman gets his beads shredded, and there's the damage we were mentioning.
Oh, the transformation now.
The overhead smash after ultimate, but largely just a shove away.
I thought that was going to be a turnaround kill, honestly. Geb shield proving to be useful.
Five on 4.
Wowy dying off screen with the Aegis still up, surprisingly, against Stanford Soccer that used that ultimate. And that's the thing, when Weekend's not there on the Geb, the Wowy and Moswal become much more vulnerable. And this is actually a nice little trade. Keep Weekend busy and preoccupied on this left side or even middle side of the map.
Uh-oh, Belair's going in on the support. Kingslayer is active. Just a push. Oswald's here, and so is Weekend, but SK uninterested. Zapman is back to base, and he's done it in secret. So Obey don't know that the carry is no longer local. That is a big win.
Look at Neil. Okay, I thought he was going to go for the tower, actually.
Neil's going to go solo the red buff.
10 years later.
No, this is enthralling. What was that? Zapman's able to go ahead and confirm it, but hey, Toli.
Hey, F-Dot.
32 minutes of play, and SK are up about 5K. What's Obey's call here? Do you want them to stick to the game plan and kind of follow where SK's been, wait for a mistake, and look for objective? Or do they make a large play like the one SK's doing right now?
They need to just kind of play defense now. They realize that SK control the map, but not because they're dominating in experience or gold. It's just because of their mobility.
Right.
Zapman is forcing Obey to kind of react on the left side of the map. And the 4-on-4, I think SK are winning, or at least if it's without the gap. Without the gap, the backline becomes much more vulnerable. You need to have Ducky being the one to play defense. Obey Alliance are the ones trying to force this objective on the right. SK Gaming casually gonna give it up, but look and keep in mind where Zapman is in mid.
All the way around, the giant flank. Nobody has any idea that Zapman's
Moswal.
here. Moswal has no clue. Moswal has no clue. And here's the thing. Zapman needs to make sure there's enough space where Moswal won't hear the invisibility either. Obviously not as loud as Loki's, but it still makes a noise. Zap waiting it out.
He's like a shark in the water, and here
There
he
it
goes.
is. Waited for the opponent to walk out of ear range. Moswal stunned, and there's the beads. The turnaround could be good, but the secondary bead's not available. Aegis is stronger, and Sanford Soccer up top takes care of Mineral. Sanford Soccer also gets Wowy.
Wowy gonna fall now. Oh, sorry, Sanford Soccer gonna fall to Wowy as Zapman gets taken up by the Excalibur's Wrath. Wowy with another one. Ducky taking out NeilMah. It's only Paul and Belair to play defense against 3 Obey members.
I call, listen, that that team fight was a mess, and I apologize to the viewers. I bungled that fight, absolutely. But what can I say? SK Gaming intentionally throws all the players all over the battlefield. Beautiful flank from Zapman to go ahead and find the stun to Moswal. Up top, everybody's doing different things. Wowy has been fantastic this game. 5, 3, and 3 for him. Coming into his own third on the damage charts on his team. Really getting a chance to see what Obey Alliance kind of has to bring. The team formerly known as Trifecta certainly trying to work into this one, and SK Gaming are formidable opponents, but Obey are looking good.
I think that in the last dying breath from Moswal, that final judgment, even though it was channeled for about half a second to 1 second, set up Wowy for that double kill to change the course of the rest of that team fight. I think that Zap could have played that team fight a little bit cleaner. After the transformation, there's a little bit of a delay. So there was plenty of time for the Aegis coming through from Moswal and not recognizing that Zapman uses it almost immediately.
Mineral now.
He's dead.
Ah, yeah, there's nothing Mineral could do there. Again, some of the growing pains of getting the call up. You just can't be there at this point in time.
Oh, no.
At this level
No
of
beats.
play. Zapman makes himself known towards Moswal.
I want to see the chase.
Nah.
He's going to chase him. I know Zapman. He's guessing wrong, but the intent is there. Oh, no, he knows exactly where he's going. I thought he was going to wrap all the way behind the tier 2 tower.
Nah, Zapman's going to be lurking here. But Zapman, and this is, I talk about the threat of activation a lot. And I'll dive deep in a moment as we can get sent back to the depths. Oh, man, all the way down. Just the threat. Zapman did it once. Zapman made this giant flank, stunned out Moswal, and Moswal actually answered as best you could. I think Zapman gets that kill a lot of the time, which is why we see him do this play. Now that Zap has done that, that is always in the head of Moswal.
3K damage pot to boot now for Zapman, by the way.
If Moswal or anybody, if Zapman is unseen on the map, Moswal will not feel safe. Even if Zapman is in the fountain, Moswal doesn't know that.
Yeah.
And that is the bigger victory off of that flank before, is the conditioning for the next time. Did a kill come? Did Zapman die? Who cares? Moswal is looking for that every time.
There needs to be so many regular wards to really find Zapman on the left side of the map. This is almost Yaman performance from Morrigan. I'm thinking back to Valencia days of how much of a flanker he was. And back then, Morrigan's stealth was 8 seconds long. Now it's only 6 seconds, but still very effective.
Our teams one more time trying to regroup and find their footing. 37 exactly on the clock. And we are a little bit shy of that number on the kill chart.
Gotta respect Paul's damage now skyrocketing. He was about 3rd on the player damage 20 minutes ago. Now sitting pretty at the top. Merlin used to be very highly contested over and banned in most cases. In this game number 2, Merlin was picked after the secondary ban phase, despite having 5 total bans available.
I think Merlin has definitely come down a little bit as far as player perception is concerned. Merlin is not as safe as players previously thought. The flicker is a very short range, and I don't think players expected all that. I don't think NeilMah expected all that. Drops the box as his teammates come to help out. Mineral gets a big heal off of the ultimate. Meanwhile, Wowy is going to kill Zapman as Zapman kills one of his own. Back and forth, it's a 2 for 2 so far. Weekend Ducky and Wowy will bounce on out of here. All Neil and Sam healthy as a horse. Sam looking around. Ward vision is good. Weekend gets hit by the monkey.
Oh, jumps away before the knockup. Paul takes out Ducky while the other 2 were distracted by the monkey.
That's what it is.
Look over here. It's like monkey in the middle, but instead the monkey is the one playing with it too, like a fiddle.
He's playing the fiddle in the middle.
Yeah, dude.
I see that.
Yeah. Can you imagine a little?
Just a little.
Just a little.
Little fiddle in the middle. In the middle of Little Italy.
Something diddle.
Oh, man. It's an old school throwback. Shouts to New York. Fun fact. Mineral, another player from New York. I know it's a meme at this point, but he is a new player, and I do want to celebrate kind of his background.
It's not an F.cast without bringing up New York at least once in the set.
I would have brought up where Mineral was from regardless, wherever he was from.
Somewhere in the Smite fan universe, there is like a side bet of when exactly you were going to mention that.
Beautiful zone by Belair. He's going to trade his life, and that could be the opening for Obey to get in here. But it's SK that does get the Fire Giant, and I love the spread. Neil goes north, Sam goes east, everybody goes a different direction. Belair does fall down, but the solo lane trading their life for 4 players to get a Fire Giant, that ain't no stranger.
Yeah, that's definitely worth it, especially with Sam for soccer barely blinking away from Mineral before getting placed in combat. It's also the enhanced Fire Giant. Important to note now, even without Belair having this Fire Giant, once he revives in 35 seconds, there's still about 3 minutes to play with on this buff. Plenty of time for SK Gaming to definitely get those last remaining 2 towers.
Sure.
And more than likely at least 1 Phoenix. But the defense from Obey is also really strong. Blink plays from Weekend. If he can see where Zapman is, then you don't have to worry about that flank because he's forced to come to you from only one angle.
Weekend going into an interesting item, the Staff of Mirrodin, something we don't see an awful lot of. The mage version of the Arthurian item. Primal Fury down, by the way. 100 power, 10% CDR, but most importantly, post-ultimate, you get an ability with no cooldown.
Double shield. It has to be double shield, honestly. That's the thing I'm looking at. Because when you blink ulti, everyone's going to be looking. So you got to shield yourself. And then you can
shield yourself again.
Or, probably you're going to have to. But at least you'll have the opportunity to shield others. I don't think you can double stack like that right now.
I'm going to shield myself. It's going to get killed, and then I'm going to shield myself again.
You could do that. That is an option available to you. Not the best option, I would suggest a different one. Double knockup's not too bad either.
I was going to say that the damage from double knockup is actually very, very real. That is something you're going to have to worry about. And I've been sitting here discounting the damage, giving you an asterisk. Weekend does percent damage with the ultimate. The knockup is a strong deal, and we have seen some silly, jungle or casual or solo lane builds. But realistically, 2 of those carpet shakes are a really big amount of damage.
I like that. Just blowing off the dust there underneath, but not necessarily the damage, also just the control.
Oh, yeah,
sheer control. Because number 1, you get off the first knock and be like, oh man, I could have positioned a little bit better. Let me walk around and then do it again. You got a B+ on the test. The teacher says the class can retake this test. All of a sudden, that B+ becomes an A.
Are you a test retaker, Toli?
Of course. Perfection.
That's valiant of you.
It's all about perfection.
Is it really?
Every day we become a better version of ourselves.
But isn't the pursuit of perfection a fruitless endeavor?
No.
The pursuit of perfection might not be fruitless, but you will never reach perfection.
Sure.
I respect that thought process.
Nobody's perfect. You could just strive to be better than your previous version.
Strive for the unreachable. You might not reach it, but you certainly improve on the way there. Obey Alliance has done that. They've made some roster changes. Moswal and Mineral certainly bringing up the team just a little bit. SK Gaming sieging on the right and the left, splitting up all across the map. Usually we see a mid lane switch, but the both sides are a nice look. Phoenixes are still very healthy. The jungler is in the middle.
Ooh, Weekend only catching out too there. Did force out Paul to use the beast, but now the turnaround play, NeilMah still very low, but the silence onto Mineral. He couldn't make the play happen.
There's the slowdown from Paul. Left side, Belair gonna look for damage on the Phoenix, won't find it. All by himself. Halfway dead is the right side bird.
I kind of like this play from SK Gaming. The tug of war between, not middle. Normally it's middle Phoenix and one of the side lanes, but this is outright just both side lanes. Not winning it, but showing the willingness to commit that wide really hurt Obey Alliance. Now granted, SK didn't get any of the Phoenixes, but with the Fire Giant respawning in 40 seconds, the damage is really going to start to chip away if they can catch that Phoenix before the regeneration.
That's the thought process at the very least. Look to just jump right on back and get this thing going. With all that said, Fire Giant's going to be up in about 25 seconds, so players have to look towards that direction, whether you're Obey or SK Gaming. Even though that right Phoenix looks pretty tasty, Fire Giant is certainly the more important objective, at least at this very moment.
Interesting to note, Zapman with his second 3k damage potion, still opting to hold on to Shusa Focus and the Dynasty Plate Helmet. This is his build that he wants to keep throughout the game. He just wants to ensure the pure damage percentage of this potion and also extra damage to structures.
Don't forget, the Bumpus Mask is going to amplify the damage that you're taking, so the sticking to the DPH is not a bad look. That's going to give him a little bit more protections and offset some of that additional damage. Then the boots. I mean, it's 10% smooth CDR with some mana. They're comparable items, but right now probably more focused on just dealing extra damage. Zapman's whole thing is stun, one, kill.
Like, he's like, wait, what if that was actually Zapman just standing there? Can you imagine?
I definitely can. Just like, they don't see me.
If I stand here, they're going to think it's a decoy. They all pass you by.
I've done that with Sun Wukong before. You like...
Oh, like playing as a decoy, you just press W?
You just W through the tower, and they're like, oh, it's a decoy, leave him alone. And then you steal the speed buff.
The mind games.
That's the fun part. That's the real fun part, and that's really what separates our teams here at this level, right? I mean, when you compare SK Gaming versus Obey Alliance, how much better, you know, are these players at pushing their buttons than others? And I'm sure you have some ups and downs, but really it's the strategy. SK Gaming looking for the EFG, and the Enhanced Fire Giant will be peeled off of, and a full-out reset.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of mind games between these teams, and something I learned from the former Allied was his Ymir play. The way he was able to wall off people, run up to them, and then just stop. Not even throwing out an ability.
Just sit there.
And I truly appreciated that next level mechanic play.
Well, because it would look, again, it's the mind games. It looks like, you know, you walk up to the player and you go for the freeze, but you don't go for the freeze, and you expect the freeze. You get that a lot as Naja as well. You can sash in and wait and watch players beads after the sash is done, expecting the windfire wheels, and you go, okay, and then ching right after the fact. These are the things that you can kind of take home. They're a lot of fun. Absolutely.
Same thing with like Blink plays. Like if you're playing Blink Hercules, Blink Tyr, Blink Fenrir. Like if you Blink Ragnarok and you like, what you could do is you can swing in the air with your Ragnarok bite, like thinking that you're about to bite them and then just react.
Well, SK is going to bite right now. Oswald tossing the ultimate out prematurely, if you ask this caster. Ducky's going to take Neil to the sky. Zapman's still on the flank, and Mozzie doesn't hear him, but Wowy's the target this time. There's the transformation. Fear no evil's good, and Mineral in trouble, but left side, Weekend and Ducky in more trouble. 2 go down to the hand of SK Gaming. Mineral, Wowy, and Moswal are out of here. Admittedly the safe way, but Obey did enough damage to SK Gaming that they can't immediately look for the Fire Giant. After a back base, maybe, but they can't get it right away, which is a big deal.
The frontliners were just so preoccupied with zoning out SK Gaming. Zapman yet again consistently goes to the same exact angle and corridor. When Ducky was walking by earlier, seeing that decoy, that should have been a huge tell of, okay, this is where Zapman wants to come from. And I don't think Obey Alliance adapted to that enough.
Here's the other thing, though. I was just talking about conditioning Moswal and always being afraid, always being afraid, always being afraid, right? Fire Giant will go down easily to SK Gaming after that one. Moswal's always afraid. Zapman comes through. Maybe Obey Alliance should have had a bouncer there.
Yeah.
But they don't. And the thing is, he goes for Wowy this time.
More so than that, there was a fork in the road for Zapman. He sees Moswal on the right, Wowy on the left. Wowy had his back turned, and he's in a Muzen cob, whereas Moswal playing the Thoth has a huge dash.
SK looking for another jump. Already 2 players are dead. Paul is immortal. 11, 1, and 9. Players are sitting on the bench for 70-plus seconds. Mineral under the tower doing a great job of distraction. Sam's actually taking a ton of damage, and we can hear now getting torn to shreds by Belair, the Kingslayer. Ducky trying to deal with the players as well. SK are trying to take the players out, but they're too tanky. Belair finally takes down Ducky. SK Gaming walk into the throne room, Toli, and with Paul putting down Mineral, that's enough for game 2.
Weekend, the last man standing in game 1 and number 2. It took 49 minutes in this one, but SK Gaming are just 1 game away from finding a clean sweep. And historically, throughout Season 6, in Phase 1, SK Gaming had 7 different 3-game sets. They won 4 of them, actually. It was against Trifecta, now known as Obey, LG, Space Station Gaming, and Renegades. So they have a lot of confidence going into this last one.
We'll certainly see if that confidence can carry them into it. 2 games down, and they both belong to SK. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with the Smite Pro League.
Skillshot, the official production partner of the Smite Pro League. Welcome back to the Smite Pro League. We just got finished watching SK in 49 minutes close out their game against Obey. But before that, I want to remind you guys, get that Battle-Worn Battle Pass. You can get Infantry, see what they did there, Sylvanas right now. Go grab it for yourself. Play some more Sylvanas. He's a ton of fun. Hopefully you all enjoy that. I still have Taco right here next to me on the desk so we can break down that last set. A long 49 minutes in that last game for them to finally close it out.
One thing's for sure, Obey is not making this easy at all for SK to try and close close out with. But SK finally managing to prevail at the end there, Finch. And for a while, I wasn't sure. I honestly thought we could have gone for another 30 minutes or so
easily,
with the way things were looking. But ultimately, SK and more importantly, Zapman was a huge standout proponent here for SK Gaming. That Morrigan utilization of the Invis form, playing like a pseudo-assassin, essentially, just constantly hunting down Moswal or Wowy. Just too much harassment for a lone Geb to try and take care of.
And early on, he did use it to turn to the Hun bots in order to defend himself against ganks, to set up for some action. I think that use was good, but you're right. I think where Zapman really made his money was later on in the game when he was using the base form Morrigan as a mage just to do, as you said, to assassin in those fights.
Yeah, that San Francisco First Blood double kill was a big standout moment for SK. It kind of set the tone for that early game, but it was just non-stop Hun-botch transformations, and some of them didn't always come to fruition for Zap specifically, but it was the pickup factor afterwards that he could always depend on from Paul, from Sam himself having in secondary Fear No Evil. Just love the way that Zap and Sam were constantly working together to time the dropping of those Fear No Evil so that they were always forcing at least Moswal or Wowy to get caught up in one or the other.
It felt like a lot of pressure at Obey to try and deal with. Like they were able to get back close to maybe not parity, but at least within striking distance. It was to the point where even though they were down 15k gold, it wouldn't matter. And so at least Obey were still close and in the game.
What made this so difficult for SK was that Obey, even though they would maybe lose Moswal or Wowy in an engagement, the same thing was happening to SK on the other hand. They were losing one of their carriers, if not more, and that was preventing SK from having a chance to get clear control over the Fire Giant, over the Enhanced FG, or even the Pyromancer. Just so much pushback from Obey, and I still kind of believe that Obey probably should have brought this one home, Finch, but the inexperience started to bleed through the longer that this set or match kind of drug on, and not only that, but the target focus as well. Obey was really struggling with trying to control their target focus as well as control what was happening in their own backline.
Well, we've seen it twice now, Taco. Where are you coming down on these Guardians in the jungle for weekend? The Geb here in this second game, the Terra in game number 1. Is this just flavor? Is this going to work? I mean, where are you coming down on this?
I actually really like what Weekend has done so far with both the Terra and the Geb, and I know that the scoreline might not look pretty in the process, but that game probably ends at 25 minutes if Weekend's not on Geb, because all of those cataclysms, all of the shields that he was able to provide, even that Staff of Mirrodin pickup actually worked out really well for him, having the double cleanse off the double Geb shield possibility, and he just kept Moswal alive. That was the real gist of what Weekend was trying to accomplish, and so when SK started playing, look at this monkey and not the other one, aka Zap herself, it was making him choose between Zap or Sam, and it just became too hectic, I think, even with the double cleanse possibility. But I kind of want to see Weekend on a carry now. We've seen him play the supportive role now in the jungle, and he is typically looked at as more of a supportive-based jungler in his playstyle in general, but I think he can carry, and I kind of want to see him on the hyper carry to try and mix things up a little bit.
Yeah, wouldn't mind seeing with something like an Arachne, right? That'd be pretty classic Weekend here at this point, but he's made these Guardians work for him, at least in terms of his performance. Maybe not the whole team's win. Let's get those picks and bans ready for game number 3, potentially the last game, unless Obey can show us that they have that last little bit they need to cross the finish line. Though, I want to say one more thing on Staff of Mirrodin. It does feel like that is where you want the item. I think it is best on Guardians because they have the most impactful abilities that you'd want a second one for, and you don't want to build it on them because it's only power. So if you play them in the jungle, it actually does kind of feel good to build the item.
Feels incredibly good until you can't close out the match. Unfortunately, Geb, despite the fact that he was able to survive throughout most of those engagements, it really just became a battle of willpower, it seemed like, for SK over there in Game 2. But for Game 1 and Game 2 to now have both gone the way of SK, this is going to be an uphill battle now for Obey Finch to try and answer back.
And I'm wondering if Obey can hold on in this third game. If SK makes a switch and start playing really aggressive early, then Obey might even be a bit conditioned. These games have gone a little long so far here today, and Obey have been able to kind of whittle their way back into those games and fight. Maybe SK may want to come out with a knockout punch here in this Game 3 to close this set out. But whatever it is they do, it will not involve Zapman on the Morrigan. That has been banned out.
A little suspectful that Hercules might begin to make his appearance here for NeilMah potentially.
He likes it.
SK absolutely loves trying to control that early game, Finch, and while Batz might not necessarily be the pinnacle of early game achievements, he definitely still has that utility setup that could go very nicely with a Herc support.
Thor comes in first for Obey, and my instinct tells me that that one is for Weekend. It's an older pick, one he's definitely played well in the past, but he's been playing so much off-the-wall stuff this set, and we've seen Mineral be willing to play more aggressive picks. I'm not 100% sure it's for Weekend, but I'd like it to be.
This is the OG Weekend meme, though, was the
Yes.
Thor. That was not the 667, so to say, but Weekend once upon a time ago struggled once, or I shouldn't say once, but it was just a problematic game for him, finding the Anvil of Dawns, and a lot of time has passed since then, and I can assure you, Thor, you don't even need to land the ult, if you ask me, Finch.
I agree.
Because we have seen so many players throughout even Phase 2.
I think I've seen Sam do it this phase, where he hasn't hit that many ults. Yeah,
you don't need the ult.
And I'm like, well, he's still popping, so it's all good. So I agree with you. That's just how strong Thor is. Set, Erlang, Shen, and Hell comes through for SK. This is a really powerful first 3 picks. Obviously, the set good in that mid to late game. The Erlang Shen strong early and still stays relevant. But then you add in this Hell for all the extra sustain too. How are you feel about these first 3 picks of these 2 teams? Because I think SK is out in front.
SK is out in front as far as what they wanted to play. This is the first time that Paul's finally going to get his hands on that Hell. Has probably been itching to try and get himself on that healer main. But I really like the battle of the sustain so far from SK. Even if Obey looks to build some items like the Contagion or even Pestilence, Cursed Ankh is probably going to be a necessity now as well in one of those relic slots for Obey, and that could pose some other issues of their own for Obey, because maybe they were looking to try and play this a little bit more aggressively, or at least that's what their composition is alluding me to believe. So to have to take a Cursed Ankh in order to have the same sort of dive potential rather than say a sprint or a shell even, just to last a little bit longer in those long endured brawls.
Yeah, I love the awareness to ban Opwash into Moswal, especially when you pick to Hell, because he will absolutely 9th pick an Opwash and just stomp this Hell. I feel like there's even a bit of a sly smile there as Moswal's like, yeah, I would have played it. So SK correctly take that one away. They also ban the Terra yet again. I wonder if they're not convinced this Thor is in the jungle, because at this point, that's a weekend ban.
It could be Thor support, though. One of the things that
be.
we have mentioned about Mineral is that he is a fairly flexible player, and Thor is certainly a god that I believe he is capable of handling from that support aspect. Would also make this Muzen Cobb even more threatening if it had a more aggressive support behind it. But the Ratatoskr, aka Thor 2.0,
interesting,
is going to make his appearance.
So then it must be Erlang Shen support set in the long lane, Hell mid, or possibly Hell long as well. This is very interesting where we're going to be seeing all these picks ending up landing as the Ratatoskr gives them even more early game pressure. And now it's up to Obey to find some kind of way to fight through that. Perhaps Ganesh is the answer. It is a Guardian, so it must be for Weekend.
Please not in the jungle.
Must
Please.
Be for Weekend.
I don't ask for many
He's not
things
even going to be able to
here,
get any kills.
I really do not ask for much from Weekend Kurt Stray, but I am begging you to please not be pulling out the Ganesh jungle here against SK.
I'll be the first one
in your
laughing at
best
you
of
when
three.
he pops off, Taco.
Maybe it does. This is the game that is... Okay, yeah, you're right. I jinxed it. We're going to a game 4, guys. I'm sorry.
Merlin rounds out the composition here for Obey. Yet again, I think they actually have a pretty sick composition if they can make it to that team fighting stage on even footing. It's just that up until now, they have not been able to. Apollo now comes in for SK, which makes me think this must be for the long lane for Zapman, so I guess it's Paul's Hell.
I think you're on the right page, though. If Obey managed to make it out of those laning phases and into the actual team fighting aspect, then I definitely think that this is a composition that's capable of bringing it to SK and possibly even toppling them. But then again, Finch, Obey, they really seem to struggle as far as target prioritization was concerned between the last couple of matches, and that's also part of the reason why their team fight has kind of fallen apart the later that these games have gone on, but it's really all about SK here. They want to close this out early. This screams nothing but early game pressure.
They've got a lot of rotational capabilities between the Ratatoskr and the Apollo. Though if I'm on Obey, I'm telling my team it's okay to fall back and defend on Phoenixes. We've seen time and time again how good Merlin is in those situations, so you don't have to take bad fights. Well, we'll find out exactly where they will fight. Obey SK, last game, it's time for Tom.
There it is. It's time, not just for Tom, but a little bit of Tolly. TNT, we're bringing you Dynamite. And, of course, Mr. Doug LeBlanc on the 1s and 2s. We're going to get out here. You know, I love what Taco said. She was like, look, this is all early game pressure. They want to get out of here. Games 1 and 2 were both almost an hour long, Anatoly. And make no bones about it. I mean, you used to sit up there on that stage. That is a real thing. For SK Gaming, jokes aside, though, looking for the early game pressure, sure. I don't think it's them wanting to get home in time for dinner. I think it's really just a shakeup. All right. Omeyer is ready for a long game. They've looked good in these long games. What if we just show up at their front door and kick it in? Are they going to be ready for an all-out early game assault? And I'm here for it.
Despite how long the previous 2 games were, as a player, you don't really feel it until the entire set is done. You're running off of the adrenaline throughout every single game, so I don't really worry for either Obey or SK to suddenly show any sort of fatigue. But the confidence should favor out SK Gaming now with this 2-0 lead. Like I mentioned before, towards the end of the previous game, SK Gaming at phase number 1 have 7 3-game sets where they won 4 of them. One of those wins were against Trifecta, now known as Obey.
Zapman on the Apollo. I'm pretty sure that was the first broadcast I ever watched. Zapman on the Apollo. Weekend goes to the invade.
Gets it.
And gets it done. Nice job there. He's able to accomplish his goal. An early rotation to the left side, by the way. Weekend playing a jungler for the first time, all set. Bringing the Ganesha, bringing the Geb and the Terra earlier on. We saw Mineral lock in Ganesha, and I thought Weekend was talking to Fails a little bit too much. But he will bring the Thor. I'm excited for it. We'll see how many ults he hits.
Oh, man. The old school Season 2 days. Yeah. We don't talk about those Season 2 days, but we will talk about Moswal dropping to the early hell play. And a Fed Paul is a happy SK Gaming no matter what god he's piloting.
Paul is one of the hell players that really speak to my heart, Tolly. A lot of players pick hell and they go, okay, I'm going to buy cooldown boots and Jade Crown and Breastplate of Valor. I'm going to sit in the back and stay in light stance and heal all day. Paul walks up, stays in dark stance, and plays it like Mr. 2032. Up in your face, looking for the damage. Sam for Soccer makes his rotation nice and early and gets the mid lane mage off to a nice start. I'm always excited when I see Paul on the hell because I know it's going to be offensive. Both meaning it's going to be up close and personal starting the fights, and also it's offensive to play against. I just get offended when he hurts me.
I'm a fan as well, honestly, because of all my games between ranked, normals, and competitive as well, hell is in my top 4 most played still to this day.
Really?
So seeing the hell always brings a smile on my face. And
what is it about the hell?
Just her diversity, honestly. Her turnaround potential is always really high, as is Arthur for
Belair.
Ducky.
No way out, all the way down. Ducky gets the kill onto Belair a little bit too far forward as the gank comes through. Nice job. Weekend again involved in that one. Just 1 assist right there.
Good presence thus far from Weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Invading the purple on the left, finding the kill on the right, even getting the blue on the right.
And Weekend able to get on out. Sam could chase him down. Belair most certainly will. Blink is good, and that'll be the end of Mr. Shrey. 2-on-1 as Wowy finds himself in a bad spot. NeilMah has the Erlang Shen, but won't be able to chase down Wowy. And this is the difference between a jungler like Thor and a character in the jungle like Geb or the Terra. Now, the Gambit and Terra actually, as we saw, in the late game actually came to fruition
Yeah.
and largely did what it was supposed to do, be another Guardian on the map. But the early game rotations weren't a part of that playbook. We weren't looking for this cheeky purple buff invade. We weren't looking for a gank in the solo lane. We were just looking for farm, show up at level 12, and make team fights happen.
And because of that, now it's Zapman that gets access to his global ultimate first. Both of these solo laners battling over the Totem of Khu. Belair does use that Kingslayer just for sustain. He doesn't actually expect to kill Ducky. He just wants to stay in this lane.
He will trade out.
Not a favorable trade. Gladiator Shield keeping Ducky very healthy as he continues to use that cooldown reduction to bully Belair out. That doesn't have teleport for another full 2 minutes.
This is an interesting choice, Tolly. If memory serves, Belair has been rushing the Glad Shield. This time around going for booties first.
I think it was off of that earlier death. He just had the gold for Boots 2. He realized it would have took him too long of a time to really save up for that Gladiator Shield. And he started, I didn't really actually notice if he started with Boots 1 and the Health Chalice.
Sure.
But he has more sustain as a result.
I will say something. I'm very excited about what Obey Alliance has done here as they look for Belair one more time, and he'll get out. I'm very excited about what Obey has done here. And this is what I like to see the lower-end teams do. And again, understanding they've lost both games, they came out with a new strategy. Post-midseason invitational, new strategy. Let's bring the extra Guardian into the game. Let's try this out. Game 1 doesn't go their way. This gank might not go their way. Ducky does find Belair, but Paul and Mineral are making the rotation. Paul largely going to be a larger impact. And Ducky is in trouble. Moswal shows up as well. NeilMah in the ground. Ducky shows up as well. But that's it. Just one. And Obey will be able to take that team fight. Belair will be pushed out by Ducky. And the blue buff invade successful for the blue team.
And all that was happening because Zapman invested his time to gank the left side. Through the Cosmos was used. Wowy's beads actually just now coming off of cooldown.
Yep.
I don't necessarily know how he survived that. Maybe he tried to stop him during the back and he just mistimed it.
Oh, here's Zapman in trouble. Spin is strong. Wowy missed a lot of what needed to happen
turnaround.
there. And so Zapman's going to not just live, but get the assist as Sam shows up and kicks him like a soccer ball. Now looking at Wowy, the spin is good, but Wowy scares his opponent just a little bit more. In the mid lane, we saw some action as well. 4-2, SK Gaming up 1,500. We said this game was going to be a little bit quicker, and it certainly looks like it, Anatoly.
Definitely does. As Zapman gets a little cherry on the top after the purple buff invade, taking out Weaken, but a little fearful to go for that second kill. I still like the mentality of this level 7 Ratatoskr.
You know, I started talking about Obey's approach to this set. And again, I obviously on the wrong side of things. You want to see your team win games. That's what sports is, right? But when you're down on the standings, keep in mind this is one big marathon of a season. You can't just do the same thing over and over again. You need to try to change things. We've seen a roster change and an organization changes, all but ceremonial. I love the approach to the game. They try to bring this Guardian out, and one game is not enough. They try a second time, and they realize, you know what? We tried something new. We tried something different. Guess what? It didn't work.
Yeah.
That's okay. Now we have a third game to kind of go back to the drawing board. But the fact that they try it twice totally is really important to me. I think it's really bad when teams just do it once because there's so many variables in Smite. So try it twice, not going to work out. Now you come back with something a little bit more traditional. Hopefully Obey can kind of bring this together. It's a 5-game set. But I love to see the creativity, and when it doesn't work out, the non-stubbornness, what's the opposite of stubborn? To find their way into traditional world. So
Ducky, though, a little out of position now, having to try to survive in a 1v2 through the Cosmos. But Wowy, in the meantime, getting something on the left.
That's rough. Sam burning the ultimate for a whole bunch of nothing. NeilMah's going to fall down if somebody can find the last hit. And it will be Moswal. That's Gold Fury opened up. SK Gaming showed a little bit too much on the right-hand side, and the Gold Fury is as free as the guacamole. Ducky gonna fall down here.
Skewer from a distance, but Obey getting the better trade of it all. That's twice now that the rotation from Sam for Soccer not too fruitful. Missing a gank opportunity on Wowy about 2 minutes ago, and now taking too much time on the right side of the map to not prevent the Gold Fury.
A very important Gold Fury as well, Toli. Moswal going to fall down.
Wow. That's why I like Hell.
Yeah.
The solo potential. This reminds me of the old school 2012, 2013 Hell days where you just run it down mid. It's the 2-1-2 meta. No one's bothering you. And
She's better now, too, in it. The magic missiles, they feel stronger.
So Hell is better now.
Yes.
But the meta back then allowed Hell to just get away with it more.
I'll give you that one. Paul here surrounded by 2. Ain't no thing but a chicken wing.
He'll be fine.
Easy.
Even clearing the wave is like, I'm not too worried about being in this. I'm not trapped in here with you. You're trapped in here with me.
Wow, he gets his bead stripped. It's a nice little mez. Zapman dashes and Paul gets the kill. Beautiful play. Mineral here getting chased out. And Zapman on the Apollo.
Ooh.
Oh. Thor to the sky. Paul's the target. Paul's in trouble. Heals
Is he?
on cooldown.
Okay, he is.
Weekend falls. You know, earlier today, 5 minutes ago, I said Zapman on the Apollo might have been the first Smite broadcast I ever watched, right? 2012 PAX, Apollo for Zapman, Thor for Laz's. What were you playing then, Toli?
A lot of Sobek, Rog, One U, yeah. Athena's.
So, and Aggro brought this up the other day as well as Moswal gets out of jail. Watching Zapman solo Apollo ult into a group of players on the enemy team is as Smite as Smite itself, man.
The vintage play, yep.
Seeing him make this rotation, land on 2, try to take 1 versus 3, and then dash all through them. That's that old school Zapman. And I think that Zapman finds his success when he's able to bridge new Zapman with old Zapman. In his veteran years in the game, Zap's been willing to give the spotlight to Paul, willing to peel back a little bit, not dive your tier 2 tower when the tier 1 is still up. But that aggression's important sometimes.
It really is. As he was able to dodge that with Purification Beats to dash into the mid lane. Weekend only took about 2 abilities there, sitting at almost 50% health. I like the aggressive nature of Weekend, looking for the poke, but once he invests to the hammer after missing the stun, he's going to be a sitting duck as he's not really respecting the counter engage coming out of Sam and Paul.
Ducky's actually standing up. See?
Okay.
He's not a sitting duck. He's a standing duck.
He's sitting down, though.
Mineral will sit down. The laying down elephant. Put to bed here. 8-5. The 2-on-2 here on the right-hand side. Wall is strong. Belair in trouble. Weekend goes to the sky, and Paula will miss that one. Belair falls down. Where's the Ratatoskr? On the right side. Paul from the left takes care of Ducky. And all those globals really start to hurt.
It really does. Is Paul going to get poked out ever so slightly?
Ever so slightly.
He'll heal it back up, no problem.
Once he gets his HP, totally.
He'll get Breastplate of Valor later, and then that damage will be heavily nullified.
I mean, you say that. My man building into penetration
Probably
right now.
Spear of Desolation for 10% cooldown reduction.
Spear of Dezo. What are the options? You've got Spear of Dezo. You've got the Spear of the Magus, and the third one,
the Divine Ruin. But you're not really going for that. It's a different kind of tree. I'm thinking of like the different pen tree here. The tier 1 of that item right there is going to be potentially Obsidian Shard after the fact for more penetration. Surprised that he's not going to wrap up the cooldown with like a Chronos Pendant or maybe Breastplate of Valor. But I'm expecting the BOV later because he does like this item.
Paul in trouble here. Big damage from the support player. Paul's able to find an exit. Moswal, on the other hand, won't be so lucky. Double digits for SK Gaming as Paul falls. Another top. Paul gets another one this time. Weekend falls down. The chase is on. Mineral and Wowy still here. But just for the moment, SK Gaming timing their aggression perfectly. The Fury will respawn in 5 seconds. Conveniently. Just happened to be after they kill 2 players. Nah, that's by design. SK Gaming right on time, baby.
Not sure if it was by design, seeing how SK were on the defense at first, but they'll take what they can get. They got the 2 kills, they strip away the red buff, even getting off the Oni Fury, greedy for a third, zap in the air, not even needed for the landing.
Love that decision here, and I'll tell you why. The 3 different Furies, you can't make me a tier list as to which one is more important because I think it all depends on the time in the game. I think right here in the early stages of the game, that Primal Fury feels really impactful, but the Gold Fury is probably the best look. In the late stages of the game, that Oni Fury is really what you're looking for. This early, the Oni Fury is not a waste, but it's not going to get you anything. Look for the kills more importantly. That's exactly what SK do.
Oh, looking for the weaken on the hammer without it will ultimately fall to the little squirrel, but SK are not done yet. Leading the charge is Paul, slowing out Mineral. Belair with the flank, nowhere for Mineral to go.
Mineral there saving his teammates, though, a nice sacrifice for the rest of Obey Alliance. Support player NeilMah with the split push. Erlang Shen. Strong character there. SK Gaming's mid laner building into some more penetration. Totally item number 5 here. Moswal takes the 1 versus 2. Will Belair be able to get it? It's down to the wire. Moswal! Oh, Kingslayer.
You really love to see it if you're an SK fan, as Belair sitting at 4-2-4. Very pretty.
I just realized Ducky and Moswal, the 2 Arthurian characters. Shouldn't they be, like, together?
I mean, they're in the same room playing together.
No, I mean, like on the map.
Just holding hands side by side.
Yeah, like is it like a round table or something?
No.
Okay. Staff of Mirrodin though is something I want to see Paul go for. 10% cooldown reduction. Hell always wants CDR. 100 power, sure. But the idea that on stance switch you get double heals.
That's good.
That's really cute. And the damage is really absurd. If you're able to stand switch into, I think the ideal situation is stand switch into double heal, but if you can stand switch into dark form and 3-3 or even double 1.
But then you got to time it perfectly to be able to be used when you want it on your own terms. Sometimes you might not be able to always do it when necessary.
Oh, absolutely. We can hear blown up before it can TP to that hammer. Not going to happen.
Even through the beads, couldn't get into safety. Too much burst damage between Belair and Sanford Soccer, sitting at about 3.5 items for Belair. Sanford Soccer as well. Zapman trying to clean up when NeilMah started earlier on the split push Apollo.
Nice job there. Wowy on the chase. And this is something that Wowy can catch up to.
He could.
However, the rest of SK are on the way. The Rats in the Sky lands on Wowy. Perfect pre-beats. Wowy will die, but he gets the Apollo, and that's an important kill.
It does delay SK Gaming from getting further objectives. The Pyromans are about to respawn, but also they found Wowy, so maybe SK Gaming can still land on this objective with how much of a lead that they have. I'm looking at the disparity between these 2 mid laners. Moswal heavily struggling, having to go for very cost-effective items. Divine Ruin and Dynasty Plate Helmet, much cheaper than that of the Spear of Desolation and the Book of Thoth.
Certainly the case for the moment. 17.5 on the clock, and we have a much different game than we saw earlier today. 8,100 is the lead for SK Gaming, 17-8 as well. Our previous 2 games, Toli.
Yeah, very long.
Yeah, that's putting it lightly.
40-plus minutes, I believe, on both of them, as instantly calling an objective on the right side of the map. No, Zapman's just taking a little world tour.
I'm on a world tour.
Around the world in 80 days.
Shouts to Jermaine as Zapman goes ahead and finds it. I don't know if this one's going to last till midnight, but SK Gaming certainly look like marauders at the moment. 40%, make that 20. Fire Giant's going to belong to SK.
They got it.
Easy.
Ducky not in position, and he is going to ultimately get chased down. It's up to Obey to split push and at least not let Ducky's death go to vain.
Obey with a nice split push here. That'll get them a tier 2. SK with a nice split push here. That'll get them a tier 2. Obey with a nice split push here. They'll be looking for a Phoenix. SK Gaming will definitely get a Phoenix and walk into your throne room. Obey needs to back right now. The Phoenix is toasted. Moswal's the only one here. SK Gaming are looking for a Phoenix. Obey is looking for a Phoenix when SK Gaming are looking for the Titan itself. Paul puts down Weaken. The Titan's still healthy as hell. This is what's going on, though. SK Gaming are forcing this. This could be bad. They all hear it. They all see it. They all retreat it. Nice job, SK Gaming.
They're going to pump the brakes. Once they saw Wowy back in the fountain, they realized there wasn't going to be an all-in commit out of Obey on the left side. Good play, or fortunate play, from Obey Alliance that the ending opportunity wasn't quite there from SK Gaming, but that's about as good of a trade as you can get if you're on the order side.
I mean, I want to bring... Obey got the Phoenix.
They did.
That is a big win. Obey got the Phoenix and SK didn't get the Titan. That is the only takeaway here. Apollo looking to take away somebody's life. Up in the sky, landing on top of Moswal. Knockup is good. Crits are strong. Mozzie at half HP. Weaken looking for the reinitiation as Moswal chased all the way back to the fountain. Ratatoskr landed on. Mid lane Phoenix is in trouble as Ducky goes down for kill number 20 for SK Gaming. They get the mid lane Phoenix totally, and that's what they're looking for.
Oh, the damage from Moswal sucking in a lot of players as
One
Zapman
for the
takes
money.
out Moswal, but SK are dangerously low here, F-Dot.
Paul is able to get one. And it's a 3-on-2.
The heals are so good.
Paul, Sam, and Neil. This is a joust composition. They got a healer, they got a support, and they've got a damage dealer. SK Gaming could look for the win.
They could sit here all day and use Paul's sustain.
That's the game plan. Minions coming in from the right. Minions coming in from the middle. Mineral knocked up. Ratatoskr going to do a secondary time stun as well. Here comes Wowy with some damage. Titan now finally being touched. The minions are here. I don't think it's going to be enough. The full-out retreat. I like SK's decision to force that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They should have forced that. With the Fire Giant buff, with the right side Phoenix being exposed, the longer those minions get down there to chip and whittle away at that Titan room. But not taking too much terrible damage at their Titan. They don't really give up too much in return.
Nah, irrelevant.
They give up their death, obviously, of Zapman, I believe, Sam, but at the end, or rather Neil, but at the end of the day, they're sitting pretty.
You know what I love about that play, though, Totally? Because I sit here a lot, and I say it about God selection, and I say it about quote-unquote bad play that works out. Make me do it. Make me do the right thing. Force me to do the right thing. And so, Obey are pushing this left lane, right? They go and they're pushing a Phoenix. This is not the right decision, quote-unquote. SK Gaming are pushing here, and Obey is just forced to go ahead and back. Okay. SK Gaming could have just walked away, but they forced Obey to answer. And the real point that I'm trying to drive home is that Obey rose to the occasion both times. They're down 10K, but they were still able to say, all right, man, you're not allowed to do this.
Yeah.
You can't walk in and take our Titan with 3 players. That's not allowed.
Yeah, SK Gaming weren't doing that as a form of disrespect to
No, not
Obey
at all.
Alliance. They have a power play with level 20 hell, and they need to use it. Sitting at 10, 1, and 6. Top of the player damage chart by 10,000, by the way. If you're not utilizing it now, you're not doing yourself much justice to close out this game.
We talk about when the gold lead becomes less relevant because all the items are there. The gold lead, very relevant. All of the items are right in front of you, and SK simply have more numbers than Obey Alliance. There is a point where that ends, and SK were trying to, end before we got to that point. Sam forcing the Phoenix down on the right side, but quickly realizing that he's at level 19, and it's not as easy as it would have been at 40 minutes. Only 23 into this contest.
He could have kept going, honestly, because after the Sundering Strike, there is no access to the Excalibur's Wrath right away. A little bit of a missed opportunity to get that right side Phoenix, but I believe Sam was a little worried about Weaken potentially using that global Anvil of Dawn. So going to retreat for now and try to make a play on the left side Phoenix, the only bird that has yet to fall out of Obey.
Fire Giant has respawned, but the globals are up, and everybody's looking at the left side of the map. Wowy gets knocked up not once but twice. Moswal dashed on sand, can't find it, but Zapman can. Moswal sits down, 3 in total for the carry, but here comes Ducky. He gets 1, he gets 2 with the help of Weaken, and Ducky will fall down after the fact, but he did a whole bunch. That all said, Paul shows up and does the damn thing. 12, 1, and 7 for the mid lane hell. And he goes directly to heaven. 3 games to none. SK Gaming take the set.
I love the confidence from SK Gaming at that last Phoenix siege. Zap in the sky, all in commit from SK Gaming. Taking and isolating out Wowy and Moswal. Great stun from Zapman to prolong the team fight a little bit further. A little bit more in the dark stance was Paul as opposed to the light stance, but it didn't really matter with how far ahead he was.
That's exactly what I was talking about. He's the guy that's going to bring out the dark stance.
Yes.
Everybody likes to sit in healer stance and get a breastplate of valor and say, all right, I heal you, you do the dirty work. Paul goes, nah, son, I'll heal you after the fact.
Yeah.
But my damage is I'm the mid lane mage.
I really thought that he was going to go Breastplate of Valor because he tends to do that on Hobwall from time to time with the extra 20% cooldown reduction, but still all smiles between these both teams after a 3-0 victory. No surprise to me personally with SK Gaming finding the victory in such a dominant fashion.
This was a great set. I think the first 2 games were really good for Obey Alliance. They made some changes to their roster, and we were able to see, obviously, where the holes were, but, of course, where they also improved. And then game number 3, I think, is exactly what SK fans were looking for. That's the 22-minute brain stop. Great stuff. 3 games down and 3 games in the books for SK. Me and Totally going to go talk to the players. We'll be right back after this.
The Smite Pro League is brought to you by Titan Forge Games, the developers of Smite. Welcome back to the Smite Pro League as we get ready to close up the day. But we can't just yet. We just had an exciting set just moments ago between Obey, recently changed to Trifecta, and SK. I have Taco right here next to me as we get ready to break down that set. Those first 2 games were pretty close. They did go long for sure. But that last game, that one got closed out pretty quick.
This is where I think that we got to see a little bit of those roster shakeups. Is going to have some growing pains there for Obey, but SK definitely figured it out by the end there. Game number 3 was entirely Sam for Soccer running the show.
Yes, it was. He picked the Ratatoskr for early pressure, and he got early pressure. I'm going to check my notes real quick. Oh, 6-0-16. That seems good.
It was just so much follow-up as well from the rest of SK because of the dive potential that they had opted for. They were not looking to slow down the second that they went forward, and this gank right here is what really set the entire message here, Finch, for what Obey Alliance should expect from this Ratatoskr. Every single place that we can try to find a gank opportunity, Sam was just there after him, and he was able to actually find the kills.
And normally Ratatoskr has a huge rotational advantage against his opponent, but he was against the Thor this time and still was able to make sure he matched that same presence and wasn't getting out-rotated.
Mentioned on the desk, Thor 2.0, and at times he really does feel like it, but I was definitely impressed by the way that Sam for Soccer utilized this Ratatoskr between consistent landings of the Acorn Blast to make it even easier for Paul to find that follow-up burst damage on the Hell, or Zapman. Zapman, who we saw, by the way, revisiting Season 0 Zapman for a second there. I definitely recall in Across the Sky that found Zapman at the back of the Obey's mid-Phoenix, but all things aside, it didn't really make that much of a difference on the endgame results here. It was just way too much pressure from the get-go that Obey never really had a chance to recover from.
I did like their almost base racy type of giving up our Phoenix to go take their Phoenix type maneuver. In the position that Obey were in at that point, they were so far behind. I don't know that there was a better play, so I like that idea from them to at least try and get something. And because SK couldn't end at that given moment, I think it was probably the right call.
The mentality there also is, what are the odds? Maybe Obey might have won a team fight shortly after the fact, after the disengages had gone through from both sides, perhaps at Fire Giant pit even, and with that left side Phoenix having been breached, that could have been a possible Game 4 on our hands. But SK not going to buckle and fold to Obey, and a little bit of unconventional play style there. But the reasoning was solid, and one thing's for sure, I was definitely impressed by the first two games from Obey. I don't think that SK was necessarily playing up to form the entire time.
Agreed, yeah.
But it looked like the switch up to Mineral has definitely been impactful so far. I'm really excited to see. This team looks like they have a lot of potential and a skill cap ceiling that they haven't even met yet.
Yeah, we're not still quite sure, I think, where this Obey roster is going, but hopefully it's a little bit better than what we have seen from them back in Phase 1. But the winners here from today, SK Gaming, are standing by. Let's go hear a little bit from Sam for Soccer and Paul.
Thanks a lot, John. Over here, we're talking to the victors. Congratulations on the win, first and foremost.
Thank you. Thanks.
We've got Sam. We've got Paul here rocking it out. First question for you guys. SK Gaming is kind of the perennial in-the-middle team. You guys have really put on some performances and unfortunately lost some. Coming into phase number 2, was it important for you to make a statement? Was this game more important, or is it just game by game?
I mean, I don't know if it's really that important to make a statement. I guess if we wanted to make a statement, then winning yesterday would have been a plus winning today. Yep. Just winning today, I don't know. But basically everything's just looking towards Worlds, so it doesn't really matter too much how well we do in the split. We obviously want to do as well as possible, but as long as we're in peak performance by the time Worlds comes around, we're happy. Yep.
Paul, did you notice any differences from Obey Alliance in phase number 2 with Mineral as opposed to the Trifecta roster with the Yannick? And if so, what were those differences?
I believe they the old Trifecta used like Ganesha and like all these assassin supports, and then Obey was running Guardians in the jungle, so that's a little bit of a thing there. I don't know if it's better, but I just noticed that.
Going forward, you guys mentioned it's all about Worlds, looking towards the future. What's the individual game plan for SK to improve day to day? Is there a game plan that you guys are reaching for, or is it just bring out the best?
I guess I'd say our weakness overall is just like team fights, right? So that's our main thing we're trying to improve on. Yeah. But it's also, I guess, bringing our top performance on game day itself, making sure we're ready to play. So basically those two things.
What was it about games number 1 and 2 that lasted so long to all of a sudden flick a switch and have a very short game number 3 for you guys?
Game 1 and 2, they just had a Guardian jungle. We didn't really know what we were doing late game, and then Game 3 we just started snowballing, and it was over.
Real quick before I let you go, Paul, I gave you a lot of credit. A lot of times when we see Hell, it's all breastplate of valor, and I'm going to wear the helmet. Nah, you came out with the power.
Yeah,
you stayed in dark stance.
Yeah.
Tell me about how much fun that is.
Oh man, my one was doing 70% of Weekend's health. It was so funny. If I could see his face, that'd be so troll.
Love to see it, man. The power Hell sends you to heaven. Congratulations on the victory.
Thanks.
3 up, 3 down.
Thanks.
Back to you guys on the desk.
Love getting a chance to hear there from SK after their victory, and even Paul enjoying having some fun on that all damage hell. Hopefully, SK can form up a little bit here and try and get closer towards that top of the pack for that auto buy into Worlds at the end of the year. But here are your current standings.
It's right on the heels of Renegades. Can't get too comfortable right now for any of those teams in the current top 6. Definitely think that there is tons of potential amongst all of these teams to take sets off another.
So these are the games that we had playing earlier on today. Rival came away with just a big week, 3-1-ing Dignitas and Knights. And I feel like that's really solidifying them just as the top team, despite the way things went for them in MSI. These are the games you can expect coming up next week. Splice up against Renegades is huge to see how Solar or Troll is looking. And LG have 2 big games as well.
It really is just so impressive to me, though, Finch, that Rival can have such a disappointing run. I don't even want to call it disappointing even, because going up against Armada, I think any of those teams would, whoever Armada played first was going to lose to Armada. I'm convinced now.
Sure.
I really am.
Okay. I don't think so, but I think that, I mean, maybe. I don't know. Armada didn't. Armada did come in and they did win. Congratulations to Armada. Rival clearly, I think, have proved to us that they are stronger than what we saw from them at that event. But yes, you're right. They were on fire at that tournament. Maybe anyone would have been caught in that blaze. We might not ever get a chance to find out. Thank you all for watching us here at the SPL today, though. We will be back with Console, Minor League, Esports Weekly, SPL, all that's happening next week, so don't miss out on any of it. Thanks for joining us today. Have a good rest of your Friday.